Chapter 647. Of course, there were also people who were not so happy at this moment. The news media could be shameless. When they saw that the situation wasn't right, they quickly apologized and admitted defeat. However, those who had followed the trend and stepped on Qin Guang's head were now in a difficult position. They couldn't keep their faces. For example, Zhang Tianming, the best actor, was filming on the set when his manager suddenly barged in from outside. Kakaka. The director looked helplessly at Zhang Tianming's manager who had suddenly barged in. He wanted to scold her, but she was Superstar Media's manager, so he had to coax her. After all, the film was relying on the best actor to pull up the box office. What is it? You're so flustered. Zhang Tianming was a little unhappy. Brother Tianming, Qin Guang's press conference has ended. The agent said breathlessly. Who cares what he says? He's so annoying. Do you think I'm afraid of him? Zhang Tianming was already upset because of the scolding below his Weibo. His agent even brought this up to him. Wasn't this infuriating? Brother Tianming, don't be stubborn. I recorded the whole press conference. You'd better delete the previous Weibo post and post an apology. The agent didn't care about Zhang Tianming's impatient look. Instead, he pulled him out in his costume. Dream on. Zhang Tianming said stubbornly. You want me to apologize to him? Are you still asleep? You should restrain your stubbornness. Really, you should watch the video first. This guy is a little scary. Zhang Tianming's agent poked and prodded him anxiously. Then she placed her phone in front of him and clicked on the video. When watching the entire video of the press conference, Zhang Tianming's actions were roughly like this. Zhou Wei is committing suicide. The manager said, isn't that so? It looks like he's doing this to protect himself. What? Qin Guang and Jin Shirui were pretending? Was there a need for Jin Shirui to help him? He had gone mad. If what Qin Guang said is true, then didn't he offend Jin Shirui's family? Even so, look at Jin Shirui's response. The manager took out another phone and on the screen was Jin Shirui's Weibo account. After Zhang Tianming saw it, his expression changed. After a long time he finally squeezed out 4 words. What the F***ck? Then he took a deep breath. There's no justice in this. How much bewitching potion did Jin Shirui drink? The manager was also quite helpless. There's no justice in this world. I don't even know what's wrong with this world. Brother Tianming, I'm not joking with you. Really, delete the post and apologize. We can't afford to offend him. There's no need to talk about Jin Shirui's background. What if he gets in touch with Mr. Lu Chao's Lu Shi culture and tries to make trouble for us in the future? We'll be in big trouble. A few years ago, didn't that Mr. Pan guy get pushed to the ground by Lu Chao? We don't have to flaunt our abilities. Zhang Tianming's face turned red. He hesitated for a long time, feeling vexed. But this time he really couldn't be stubborn. He sighed. Zhang Tianming had already given in. Those people in the industry who followed the trend were not any better. Sooner or later they all expressed their stance. There weren't many who were stubborn. Lowering one's head and admitting one's mistake when the situation wasn't looking good was the philosophy of life. There was nothing shameful about it. The hustle and bustle would eventually settle down. Life had to go on. There was really no need to make a big fuss over such a small matter. It would be a dead end for one's career in the industry. For a moment the internet was bustling. All sorts of celebrities and famous media lined up to apologize to Qin Guang. The netizens and fans were too busy to take in. Actually, Qin Guang didn't really care about these people's apologies. Now that the matter was over, he would throw it to the back of his mind. Those who needed to apologize would apologize, those who needed to clarify, and those who were stubborn would insist on taking the blame. Then he would let Tianguang manager sort out the list of names and deal with it however he wanted. Anyway, Tang Zhao's 130 million was still there. The 8 weekly magazines which he had just earned for 1 yuan were still in turmoil. From the looks of it, there should be some cash flow. It wouldn't be a problem for him to fight a lawsuit or take revenge on those disgusting people. As long as this incident gave those people a wake-up call, those people would have to think twice before they wanted to ride roughshod over their heads in the future. By striking a blow to the mountain to warn the tiger, he would be able to avoid these troublesome matters in the future. Then his goal would be achieved. He didn't have the mood to care about these trivial matters all day long. At this moment he was sitting in his office with his legs crossed. He was calling Tang Ying. Sister Tang Ying, let's have dinner together tonight. I'm not free. I have to operate on a patient today. When will you be done? In my next life. Sis, you can't be like this. You have to keep your word. What did I say? Why don't I remember? The sun is really scorching me today. I don't have the energy to go out at all. Tang Ying was also good at acting shamelessly. Then Qin Guang played the recording. It was Tang Ying's sentence. I'll use my mouth. You dare to record it? Tang Ying broke down. Qin Guang smirked. Of course I have to record it. I've already seen through you. On the other end of the phone, Tang Ying's face turned pale. She had only said it casually. Who would have thought that Qin Guang would really do it? Now that she couldn't deny it, Tang Ying became bashful. Well, I really have to operate today. But don't worry. I won't go back on my word, okay? I'll do what I say, but you have to give me some time to prepare myself. It's a little embarrassing to do it in such a hurry. All right, I'm relieved to hear that. Qin Guang hung up the phone happily and turned to look at his brand new office. The bright afternoon sun shone through the floor-to-ceiling windows, making him feel comfortable. It was like a happy occasion. How is this sun scorching me? Simply heartwarming, okay? Yu Hong came over and knocked on the door. Chief Chen, are you there? Qin Guang asked him to open the door. Yu Hong said, Lu Xiaoyang, the deputy editor of 8 Weekly, is here. He has something to say to you. Only then did Qin Guang remember this cheap underling that he bought with $1. He waved his hand casually. Let him in. Truth be told, Qin Guang didn't have any feelings for the 8 magazines. According to his initial plan, he would just disband them. In any case, he had no intention of becoming the leader of the paparazzi, so there was no point in having the 8 magazines. Besides, in Qin Guang's opinion, since these employees of 8 Weekly chose to work with Zhou Wei, they were not good people in their bones. It was useless to have them. Everyone's philosophy of life was different, and a melon that was twisted together would not be sweet. However, Yu Hong's suggestion could not be ignored. What he said was quite reasonable. Xiaolu, go in and have a good talk with Chief Chen. Chief Chen is quite easy to talk to. Tell me what you think. Yu Hong left and said to Lu Xiaoyang, who was waiting outside the door. Yu Hong was quite optimistic about Lu Xiaoyang. At such a young age, he could become the deputy editor of 8 Weekly and become Zhou Wei's right-hand man, which showed that he was more or less a talent. Moreover, as a veteran in the workplace, unlike Qin Guang, who was fresh and refined, Yu Hong considered more about interests. Even if Qin Guang wanted to completely destroy 8 Weekly, Yu Hong planned to protect the company. At least the backbone should be kept. Even if it was just moving some of the core employees of 8 Weekly to the headquarters of Tianguang Agency, it was necessary to occupy a small office on the 15th floor as a subordinate department. The goal was nothing else. 8 Weekly had a lot of information about many big shots in and out of the entertainment circle. They were also quite valuable. They could be treated as a nuclear deterrent. In the future, they might be able to help Tianguang Agency clear a lot of unnecessary trouble in the future development. Before this, Yu Hong had mentioned this to Qin Guang. Now he was just waiting for Qin Guang to make a decision. Lu Xiaoyang hesitated outside for a long time. Finally, he mustered up the courage to enter the office. There was no hope on Zhou Wei's side. Mr. Lu also clearly said that all the shares of 8 Weekly had been transferred to Qin Guang. In other words, this paparazzi magazine, which was once famous in the industry, had completely fallen into the hands of Qin Guang. The life and death of the entire company was in the hands of Qin Guang. Many of the former employees were still lying in the hospital, but everyone was already starting to worry about their own futures. It was obvious that the new boss hated the paparazzi to the core. Even if everyone helped him provide all kinds of evidence to make Zhou Wei self-destruct, it didn't seem to be able to change his opinion. Everyone also understood that as employees of 8 Weekly, they weren't good people. At this time, the entire 8 Weekly was in a state of panic. The heavy responsibility of spying on the new boss fell on the shoulders of the deputy chief editor, Comrade Lu Xiaoyang. In fact, Lu Xiaoyang originally planned to leave 8 Weekly, leave the sad city of Wujing, and go to Yanjing to find a slightly kind-hearted media outlet. Then he would settle down as an honest reporter and work hard for the rest of his life. Then he would buy a suite in Yanjing 3rd Ring Road. His life would be worth it. However, he was kind after all. He couldn't resist the eager eyes of his colleagues in the company. If he left at this time, 8 Weekly, the entertainment empire that Zhou had created, would be completely disbanded. Although most of the people in the company were senior paparazzi who only wanted to get rich, Lu Xiaoyang knew that there were some people like him. They used to have pure dreams, but in the end, they could only helplessly kneel in front of the door of reality. At the same time, he wanted to know if they could return to being upright under Qin Guang. After all, Qin Guang's new boss was truly different from the rest. Chief Qin. Lu Xiaoyang carried a large metal box and stood in front of Qin Guang. Qin Guang retracted his eyes from the computer screen and gestured for him to sit down. "Xiao Lu, you sit." Looking at Lu Xiaoyang, Qin Guang felt a little awkward. Although Lu Xiaoyang wasn't old, he looked to be in his mid-20s. Yet Lu Xiaoyang didn't show any signs of discomfort when he called him Xiao Lu. Qin Guang felt that Lu Xiaoyang's heart had died. "If you have something to say, just say it. Don't beat around the bush here. Oh, by the way, I heard from Mr. Lu that 8 Weekly had a lot of real news. Did you bring it over?" The real news that Qin Guang was talking about was naturally the news that Zhou and hundreds of employees of 8 Weekly worked from dawn to dusk, risking their lives to take photos of various artists and celebrities. Lu Xiaoyang opened the metal box. Inside were 8 portable hard drives arranged neatly. "Chief Qin, all the hard drives I copied are here." Chief Zhou, "Oh no, there's still some in Zhou's office computer. I asked Manager Yu to lock his main computer in the storeroom. There are no hard drives anywhere else." Qin Guang nodded and asked Lu Xiaoyang to leave the box behind. "Good job." Lu Xiaoyang was very nervous. What he was going to say next represented the fate of the remaining 20 or so people who shared the same goal as him. As for the others, he didn't care. He didn't have the heart of a Buddha. He knew that even if he managed to save those people, they might end up in a worse situation when Mr. Qin personally kicked them out. This was probably the fiercest pain one could experience in their career. No one would believe it if they said it out loud. 8 weekly magazines were sold for 1 yuan. Suddenly, Qin Guang leaned down slightly and looked at him strangely. "Oh, Xiao Lu, in these 8 portable hard drives, are there any small clips?" "Huh? Small clips?" Lu Xiaoyang did not understand what he meant. Qin Guang blinked at him. "Don't put on an act with me. It's the kind that is exciting, sensational, superstar, shameful." Lu Xiaoyang's brain froze. "Alright, I take back my thoughts. This new boss does not seem to be a decent person. Something that can be erotic?" Xiao Lu asked. Qin Guang's eyes lit up. "That's right. You have no idea how many Calabash Brothers I downloaded on the internet over the years. Those unscrupulous media outlets and marketing accounts are too heartless. I had been downloading torrents for 3 days and 3 nights. I clenched my teeth and downloaded a celebrity collection at a snail's pace. It was more than 10 gigabytes and I was stuck at 99% for another 3 days. Finally, I finished downloading it. When I uncompressed it, I saw that it was the Calabash Brothers collection. I immediately called the police. There must be something in it, right? Celebrity?" Lu Xiaoyang's mouth opened wider. He suddenly had a feeling that he should go to Beijing to pursue a righteous life. His new boss seems to be even fiercer than President Zhou. "Yes, but not much. I haven't taken a good look at them myself. Chairman Zhou, oh no, Zhou has only mentioned them to me occasionally. Some of them are from A-list celebrities and some are even from S-list celebrities. However, they are all his treasures and he has never let me look at them." Qin Guang's eyes brightened up. "Go and close the office door." When Lu Xiaoyang returned, Qin Guang pointed to the 8 hard drives and asked, "Which one?" "From my understanding of Zhou H drive." Lu Xiaoyang pointed at the 8th hard drive with the H label and said decisively. Qin Guang gave him a thumbs up. "You know your stuff." Chapter 648. "Then Chief Qin, I'll be leaving now?" Qin Guang waved his hand to get him to leave, but after a while he called Lu Xiaoyang back. The unlucky Zhou actually used English letter codes for every folder. With Qin Guang's poor understanding of the entertainment industry, even if there were people in front of him, he wouldn't be able to recognize many of them. How could he tell who was who just by looking at the code? What was even more shameful was that the quality of many of the videos and photos was really not good. Either the camera angle was wrong or the lighting was terrible. It was a dark mass and one could only see 2 ghostly shadows swaying on the screen. This was a real photo shoot. There was no way to have high requirements for quality. Help me identify these people. What kind of D*MN code names are these? I don't know any of them. You know a lot. Also, help me introduce these people to their representative works, what songs they sang and whether they're popular. Qin Guang rubbed his fingers together. Lu Xiaoyang felt that his life was probably going to be ruined here. 3 hours later, around 5 in the afternoon, the newly established Tianguang Agency's busy day of work was over. It was almost time to knock off. The two of them still hadn't come out. The staff of Tianguang Agency had quite a lot of things to do outside. Other than the construction team that was still renovating the office, the entire company was mobilized to check on the movements of the media and celebrities who were looking for trouble. If everyone agreed that the other party had admitted defeat, they would tick it. Then they would summarize the article's title and general meaning and print it out on a form. When it was finally submitted to Yu Hong would look through it and further eliminate them. He would sort out the list of people that might be in dispute and give it to Qin Guang. This so-called dispute was based on Yu Hong's shallow understanding of Qin Guang, trying to figure out this narrow-minded person's character and determine if he would be satisfied. For those who were slow, pretended to be dead, pretended to be offline, or those who were busy with other things and didn't know that there was an uproar, they would call to communicate. If communication failed, they would be blacklisted. According to Qin Guang, he had 10,000 ways to kill these people. Everyone was also quite curious about what kind of impact Qin Guang's 10,000 ways would have. However, food had to be eaten bite by bite and things had to be done step by step. When it was time to get off work, one had to get off work. The 40 or so people hidden in the Guangdong General Headquarters were not having it easy either. Not only did they have to do their own jobs, sweeping the floor, patrolling, standing guard, or otherwise busy themselves in the kitchen, they also had to deal with the Guangdong General Headquarters errands every now and then. The day of the individual military exercise was getting closer and closer. Not everyone in the Special Affairs Bureau was as bold as Xing Yongtai or Director Ouyang. After continuous communication and spying, some of the Special Affairs Bureau employees who could be roped in or instigated had already made their moves. Taking the southwest branch of the Special Affairs Bureau, which was also located in the 5 capitals, as a breakthrough point, the progress was particularly smooth. Xin Qin and Wu Miaoan had to remotely control the work of communicating with their own people in the southwest branch from Qin Guang's home. The specific implementation naturally fell to the staff of the Guangdong General Headquarters. Fortunately, the personnel assigned by Qin Guang were really redundant. The security department, cleaning department, and cafeteria department kept asking for leave, and there was no shortage of manpower. However, there was one thing that made everyone feel very strange. Xiao Lu from Bazhou Weekly had been in Qin Guang's office for 3 hours. Why hadn't she come out yet? Could she have died in there? *CK This scene was a little bloody just by imagining it. Old Yu, why don't you go and take a look? Nothing bad happened, right? Fong Tianyu, the marketing manager of Tianguang Brokerage, whispered to Yu Hong with some fear. Yu Hong was more reliable in handling matters than Fong Tianyu. Old Fong, don't ask too much about the boss's work. Maybe Qin Guang has some big arrangements for Bazhou Weekly. All right. Fong Tianyu also knew that he was not very reliable. In the chairman's office, Qin Guang happily patted Lu Xiaoyang's shoulder, feeling very satisfied. Although most of the shots in this basket of videos and pictures were so bad that they could not be looked at directly, and there was no hope for them to get some points, the protagonists in them were awesome. Even if they could not see clearly, just thinking about the identity of the protagonists could make people feel proud. That's right, from now on I will be one of the best veterans in the country. Of course, there were a few dozen videos that were very clear. But for these high-quality videos, Qin Guang only glanced at the beginning and then deleted them. Then he changed the folder's name. As a boss, he should have a sense of superiority. He still had to enjoy the high-quality videos alone. It was a bit unbearable to sit and watch with Comrade Xiao Lu. Zhangge, you're pretty good. From now on we are on the same side. Qin Guang continued to pat his shoulder. Lu Xiaoyang regretted it so much that he wanted to vomit blood. Previously, he saw a popular star in his university and accidentally revealed his nickname in his dormitory. After so many years, he became Sangu again. Alas, it is really sad to think about it. But for the sake of my brothers in Bazhou Weekly, I will bear it. Thank you, Qin Guang. What about Bazhou Weekly? Lu Xiaoyang finally asked this question. It's broken. Qin Guang said these two words directly. Ah. It's broken? It's broken just like that? Looking at Zhou Wei's dazed expression, Qin Guang could understand his feelings. However, he wasn't interested in becoming a paparazzi, and there's no point in keeping the 8 magazines. He was already going against his conscience to obtain the 8 hard drives that Zhou Wei had accumulated over the years, so he couldn't continue Zhou Wei's career. Saga, don't be like this. I think you are a decent person. Are you reluctant to do the paparazzi work for Bazhou Weekly? Lu Xiaoyang shook his head. No, I just have some colleagues. Qin Guang nodded. I understand. Don't be nervous. Since I said you are on the same side, I am not joking. I will treat you well. The administrative department and the public relations department of Tianguang Agency are merged, but this is not a good solution. I plan to set up a department that is in charge of publicity. Let's call it the Publicity and Public Relations Department. You will be the manager. As for the internal staff of Bazhou Weekly, you can hire those who have good moral characters who are willing to work for me. As for those who are unreliable, traitorous, or stubborn, just give them a sum of severance pay and medical expenses. You can deal with them however you want. Don't tell me you are best friends with all the staff of Bazhou Weekly? Lu Xiaoyang's eyes gradually lit up. Although Chief Qin had been dragging him to watch the short films from the beginning to the end, asking this and that as if his mind was only focused on who these celebrities were, in fact he already had a plan in mind. Tianguang Agency will set up a new publicity department. I will be the manager and I will be on the same level as Yu Hong. This kind of treatment, this kind of appreciation, it was simply enough to make one's eyes brim with tears, alright? Moreover, I am still a criminal. How could Qin Guang think so highly of me and trust me? Lu Xiaoyang's body trembled uncontrollably. Young man, don't just get excited. Remember, men are like iron and the two of us are like iron. Do a good job and you will be treated well. Tianguang Agency needs talents for publicity. Thank you, Qin Guang. I won't let you down. Not everyone in Gossip Weekly is like Zhou Wei. Actually, when we first graduated, we sincerely wanted to be honest media people. It's just that we ran into Gossip Weekly and couldn't help but become paparazzi. That's okay. Your previous work was also very effective. Qin Guang looked at the H drive silently. What a treasure. Strange. Why am I drooling? After a while he remembered something important. By the way, how many people do you think we can keep? About 20 people. I don't want the unreliable ones, Lu Xiaoyang said seriously. He had to be careful when choosing people. That's settled. From now on, you will be the manager of the Publicity and Public Relations Department of Tianguang Agency. Lu Xiaoyang nodded heavily. However, he felt something was wrong. Why did it seem that there were 2 more words behind the title of publicity? That's right. The #1 Male Public Relations Department of Tianguang Agency. It's you, Yanni. Sagu. Qin Guang patted Lu Xiaoyang's shoulder again. Then he carried the box with 8 portable hard drives and walked to the door of the office. Time to get off work. Poor Sangu, who was standing in the wind in confusion. To hell with the #1 Male Public Relations Department. When Qin Guang walked out of the door, Yu Hong, who was still working, approached him. Qin Guang, what's your decision? Hence, Qin Guang told Yu Hong about his thoughts. Although it might seem to be diluting Yu Hong's authority, Yu Hong was Tang Xiaokai's trusted aide overseas, and his specialty wasn't in publicity or public relations. Furthermore, he didn't have any connections in the country. Just this matter alone was already strenuous for him, so he was happy that he could get rid of it. By the way, you can also transfer these people from the administration department to the Publicity and Public Relations Department. Qin Guang mentioned the 2 police trainees and a military trainee who had sneaked into the company's administration department. Yu Hong was quite puzzled. These 3 people are quite capable. Qin Guang waved his hand. I know. That's why I'm letting them see the world. Fine, you have the final say. Yu Hong was quite reluctant to let go of these 3 people when Qin Guang mentioned them. After settling this matter, Qin Guang didn't pretend to be busy anymore. He was ready to get up and leave. Looking at the empty office hall, Qin Guang silently clenched his fist. I'm the last to get off work. I'm such a hard-working boss. He didn't realize that he had spent the whole afternoon in H-Disk. He just wanted to sneak home and lock himself in his room to think about the 10 or so high-definition hot news. But before he could even step out of the office, he received a call from Bai Hua. At that moment Qin Guang felt the urge to give Bai Hua a pinch. However, Bai Hua had helped him a lot this time, and it wouldn't be good if he didn't pick up the call. Brother Bai Hua, what's up? Why didn't you say hello yesterday before you left? I still have something to ask you. Bai Hua's tone sounded a little unhappy. Of course, Qin Guang knew why Bai Hua was unhappy. However, if you're happy then I'm not happy. So you can continue to be unhappy. Well, I'm quite busy. I saw that you guys talked for quite a long time. It's a waste of time for me to wait outside. I asked you to come and listen but you didn't come. Are you blaming me? Bai Hua continued. Qin Guang coughed twice. To be honest, Brother Bai Hua, don't think too highly of me. I'm actually just a fourth-year student. Your topics are too profound. Come on, aren't you President Qin with a net worth of over 100 million now? Don't play dumb with me. You're just avoiding me. Bai Hua said again. Qin Guang had goosebumps all over his body. What the hell? Can't we have a proper conversation? Who the hell wants to avoid you? We're not acting out a melodramatic love drama, okay? I have to go back to Beijing tonight. Oh, that's good. Have a safe trip. Be careful. But I still haven't seen Qin Yu. Brother Bai Hua, there are plenty of fish in the sea. Why do you have to chase after someone who has no interest in you? I said I won't give up so easily. Of course, I understand what you said before. I shouldn't be so overbearing. But it's okay, I can wait. Qin Guang wanted to stab himself with a knife. Come to think of it, what did I say to you before? If I remember correctly, I've been telling you to give up. Why are you becoming more and more stubborn? Your brain circuit is different from mine. Forget it. I won't pester Qin Yu this time. But there's one more thing. It's best if we talk face to face. About Shuiwei, shouldn't you give me an explanation? Qin Guang rolled his eyes. What explanation do I need to give you? I'm not letting down the heavens, I'm not letting down the earth, I'm not letting down my conscience. Alright, this matter was quite hurtful to Bai Hua. He was also a pitiful person. It was all a sin. But aren't you going back to Beijing today? It's not convenient right now. If there's anything, let's talk about it in a few days. Qin Guang used a delaying tactic. Bai Hua used a decisive move. I'm downstairs at your company. You can see me when you go downstairs. I've ordered a meal next to your company. Let's talk while we eat. This time Qin Guang couldn't escape. He braced himself and sat down with Bai Hua in the restaurant. I just found out that you and Shuiwei were faking it. Bai Hua's words were filled with melancholy. Qin Guang rubbed his brows in distress. It's like this. It was a special situation at that time, so I didn't think too much about it. Later on I regretted it. I felt that Jin Shuiwei had sacrificed too much. I wanted to clarify it, but it was too late. I thought that since she's a public figure and a celebrity, it wouldn't be good for her if I treated this matter like a child's play. So, I wanted to drag it out so that people would slowly forget about it. But this time Zhou Wei gave me a wake-up call. It's not good for everyone to drag it out, so I took the initiative to reveal it this morning. But you didn't expect her to refute it, did you? You didn't expect her to confess to you in public, did you? Bai Hua wasn't in a hurry to pick up his chopsticks. Instead, he looked at Qin Guang with a burning gaze, trying to see through his heart. Qin Guang felt a headache coming on. I didn't expect it. He felt that it was all old Master Jin's fault. Old Master Jin must have forced him to do this. Bai Hua slowly poured half a glass of red wine for the two of them before he said, You're surprised because you don't know Shuiwei well enough. Don't be unconvinced. No matter what the two of you talked about it, I'm 100% sure that Shuiwei really likes you the moment she announced it on Weibo. Otherwise, do you think she would have pretended to write those things on Weibo? Even I feel sick for her, okay? You have to know that she has known these things since she was very young. When she was 5 or 6 years old, she wouldn't let me hold her hand. If she didn't care about you, she would never have said those things, let alone kissed you in public at the concert. She's more stubborn than you think. And more principled. Before he met Qin Yu, Bai Hua had liked Jin Shuiwei for many years. So he could see these things more clearly than Qin Guang. Chapter 649. Qin Guang was speechless. Although he didn't want to admit that what Bai Hua said was true, the more he thought about it, the more he felt it made sense. If he remembered correctly, when he kissed Jin Shuiwei before the concert, not only did she not feel any discomfort, but she even hugged him back to make them stick closer together. She even took the initiative to stick her tongue out. If she didn't have feelings for him, then there must be something wrong with her brain. Qin Guang slapped his forehead. He was really stupid. He didn't think so much at that time. But at that time, Qin Guang didn't have any acting skills, and he didn't know much about the human body's microexpressions and reactions. Plus, he thought that Jin Shiyue was being pushed by Jiang Yage, so he didn't think too much about it. Now that Bai Hua mentioned it, the meaning of it resurfaced in his mind. It was really scary. Then the problem was Jiang Yage really liked him. This was something that couldn't be hidden. The two of them had already done it at Yanjing's Yi-Nua Club. Then would Jiang Yage and Jin Shiyue fight because of him? Wouldn't this be a bit too melodramatic? Then he quietly opened his Weibo and looked at Jiang Yage's latest post. Sisters of one heart, their sharpness can cut through metal. He spat out the red wine that he had just drunk. It would have been better if the two of them had actually fought. This was even more melodramatic than a fight. The fans of Jiang Yage's Weibo said that as Jin Shiyue's best friend, she was expressing her support for Jin Shiyue's pursuit of Qin Guang. Only Qin Guang, the only person involved, understood Jiang Yage's words. The meaning was extremely rich and the implied meaning was extremely scary. Oh man, what did I do? This wasn't the time to think about this. Qin Guang coughed a few times before saying, okay, maybe you're right, brother Bai Hua. I didn't think it through and didn't truly understand Jin Shiyue's feelings. No matter what you say, I will still say the same thing. If you dare to let Shiyue down, if you dare to make her sad as her brother, I will be the first to not agree. Although I don't know what's going on between you and that female counselor of yours, believe me, you won't be able to find a better woman than Shiyue in this world. It seemed that Bai Hua had come looking for Qin Guang today to give him a warning about this matter. Qin Guang nodded repeatedly. After all, he was in the wrong. Except for Qin Yu. Bai Hua added. Go to hell. Big brother Bai Hua, can we stop talking about Qin Yu? Qin Guang's temples were swollen and painful. I'm talking to you about Shiyue. What are you thinking? Bai Hua didn't realize how much trouble his words had caused for Qin Guang. Qin Guang thought for a moment. He really didn't want to give Bai Hua any reason to talk. Even though he didn't have any ideas and even though Jiang Yage's words, sisters are of one mind, their sharpness can cut through gold, he still decided to lie. Don't worry, I understand. Bai Hua drank another mouthful of wine. It's good that you understand. Compared to me, you're really lucky. You have to cherish your own happiness. Okay, thank you for your concern, big brother Bai Hua. Bai Hua poured himself another glass and said, sigh. Then he drank it all in one gulp. Qin Guang had a feeling that this guy was planning to get himself drunk. About 20 minutes later, Qin Guang realized that he wasn't mistaken. There were several bottles of wine on the table. Did Bai Hua come to get him drunk? Sai thinking about it, he was really bitter. The person he had liked since he was young had already fallen in love with him. When he finally fell in love with another girl, it was still him. Now that he thought about it, even a simple request like meeting her had become an extravagant hope. There was nothing more tragic than this. I'm toxic. Big brother Bai Hua is really miserable. So what if you're a proud son of heaven? So what if you're the vice president of Tianjing Energy? So what if you're the apple of the eye of many elders? No matter how good your innate qualities are, you can't overcome life's ups and downs. Qin Guang was going to drive, so he didn't dare to drink anymore after drinking half a glass. Big brother Bai Hua, don't drink too much. It'll be embarrassing if you get airsick. That's not even close. How can I get drunk? Bai Hua waved his hand and gulped down another large mouthful of wine. In fact, his alcohol tolerance wasn't that good. It was just a way of venting his emotions. He put down the glass and looked at Qin Guang with red eyes and face. Qin Guang, I really envy you. You're able to get Shiyue's heart. You don't have such a hard life like me. I really want to see Qin Yu. Even in my dreams, if I didn't numb myself with crazy work, I think I'd go crazy. It can't be, big brother Bai Hua. You've only met her twice. You don't have such deep feelings for her, do you? Qin Guang wanted to remind him. This isn't a movie. How can there be such a powerful love at first sight? Bai Hua shook his head. No, I can't explain it to you. Before this, I really didn't believe in love at first sight, but some things are really unbelievable. Forget it, someone as lucky as you won't understand. You definitely won't understand. It's a beautiful and wonderful feeling. Qin Guang cursed in his heart. How can I not understand? How can I not understand? You fell for Lioli's trick in the old man's heavenly holy grail, okay? Can you not make it sound so high and mighty? Didn't Wu Tong also fall for it? How come the aftereffects weren't as serious as yours? Lioli's voice sounded in his mind. Of course it's different. Wu Tong is a woman after all. She's much more reserved when it comes to these things. When she realized that something was wrong, all she could think of was to figure out what was going on and then restrain the emotional aftereffects. In the end, she failed and fell head over heels in love with you. But this man doesn't even think about restraining himself. His mind is filled with all sorts of fantasies. Not only does he not restrain himself, but he also takes the initiative to deepen his memories. Isn't that just courting death? Qin Guang suddenly understood. When he looked at Bai Hua again, he felt that this guy didn't deserve any sympathy. Serves you right. Who told you to have a head full of shameful thoughts? Bai Hua patted Qin Guang's shoulder again. Brother, my heart is bitter. Qin Guang also patted his shoulder. To be honest, big brother Bai Hua, my heart is also bitter. Bai Hua slowly shook his head. What are you bitter about? How are you bitter? Look at you. You obviously know Qin Yu. She's obviously in Wujing, but you don't let me see her. Even when I asked you to pass the message, it went in one ear and out the other, right? How cruel are you? How heartless. After drinking too much, this guy finally said what he was holding back in his heart. He wasn't as calm as he looked. How am I heartless? It's others who don't want to see you. Are you blaming me? Qin Guang spread his hands. Bai Hua started hitting his head on the table. Can't I blame you? I just want to see her from afar, but I can't do it. Is my request too much? Is it really too much? Qin Guang, you're Jingwei's brother. I also treat you as my brother. When you're in trouble, I'll help you wholeheartedly. How can you torture me like this? As Bai Hua spoke, his eyes became redder and redder. Actually, cried. Hearing those words, Qin Guang sucked in a cold breath. He couldn't tell that big brother Bai Hua would be so unreasonable when he's drunk despite his usual appearance. Usually, the more serious a person is, the more they collapse when they're drunk. But regardless of whether he's drunk or not, he looks really pitiful. Brother Bai Hua, can you stop crying? I'm not used to seeing you like this. How about this? Qin Yu's not in a good position right now. I'll find a chance to let you see her, okay? Bai Hua, who had been drunk just a moment ago, suddenly raised his head, his eyes practically glowing. Good. Then it's a deal. As a man, once you say it, you can't go back on it. He proudly waved his phone. I've recorded it. Don't try to go back on your words. Qin Guang was dumbfounded. Where's this guy's drunkenness? Where did he go? Isn't he a psycho? Are you pretending to be drunk? I'm an award-winning actor, yet I'm being cheated by you? Qin Guang didn't expect that a man like Bai Hua would actually cry, throw a tantrum and threaten to hang himself. He was caught off guard and accidentally fell into Bai Hua's trap. Then that's it. Since I'm full, it's time for me to return to Beijing. Bai Hua said as he stood up, packed his clothes and wiped his face. The redness from the alcohol disappeared in a blink of an eye. This bastard really used a woman's blush when he lowered his face. Now it's gone. Is this how Bai Hua, the proud son of heaven of Yanjing, uses his intelligence and wisdom? Qin Guang sighed in admiration. Bai Hua was actually shameless to this extent. Serves him right for falling into his trap. Who would have thought of such a big contrast? After Bai Hua walked out of the restaurant, he silently took out his phone and sent a message to Lin Jingwei. Thank you, Jingwei. You said that this trick was really useful. Qin Guang is really soft-hearted. In fact, the play that Bai Hua put on today was all Lin Jingwei's trick. He was the one who taught Bai Hua to deliberately trick Qin Guang. This represented the anger of the 3 grandsons in the dormitory. Everyone was extremely envious and jealous of him for getting Jin Shiyue's love. He was also taking revenge for son Xiaoxuan, who was overseas and didn't know what was going on. You're too shameless. Son Xiaoxuan is sincere to you, but let's not talk about Miss Wen. After all, we've known each other for so long, yet you still dared to take the initiative to confess to Teacher Zhou? And then Jin Shiyue confessed to you? How can we be happy friends like this? If I don't let you have a taste of my power, you won't know how many eyes I have. Going downstairs alone, Qin Guang felt a little melancholy. Originally, he was just making a promise. Seeing that Bai Hua was drunk, he wanted to coax him to behave. In the end, this guy was pretending to be drunk and even recorded it. I can't even deny it. Why does this trick seem so familiar? That's right, I used it to deal with Tanging, but now it's being used on me. Thinking of Tanging, he felt a little unwilling. They had originally agreed on a bet, but she said she was going to have surgery today. No matter what, he couldn't disturb her. Alright, he tightened the suitcase in his hand. Fortunately, the old man still had an H-drive. Back home, after a whole day of tossing and turning, Xianxia and Wu Miaoan were pretty good. The shabby room was almost cleaned up, and the dear wife, who had been brutally shot in the head, had been replaced with a new monitor. Other than the two deputy directors finally reporting to him about the Guangdong General Administration, everything was so beautiful. Qin Guang originally thought that the director position was just a useless position. The elders were just giving him a golden opportunity because of his friendship with Wen Wen and Jin Shiriwa. He was just a decoration in this broken police station, playing the role of a mascot. If they really let him handle government affairs like an official, wouldn't that make things difficult for them? Don't think too highly of me. I'm just a university student who hasn't even graduated, okay? Director, this is the list of people we met today. This is the conversation record, please take a look. Don't be fooled by the fact that these two Lolitas were usually noisy. They were actually both senior sisters in the sect, and they were equally methodical in their work. Today, apart from properly coordinating the personnel dispatched from the general administration, the two had already sorted out the day's work memo and placed it in front of Qin Guang. Qin Guang looked at the thick stack of paper. Can I not look at it? I believe in both of your abilities. For such a small matter, there's no need for me to personally attend to it, right? Xianxia tidied up her collar. Director, instigating defection is no small matter. If there's any mistake, it might lead to a chain of leaks. You have to make the decision. No, really, I believe in both of your abilities. You can handle it yourselves. Qin Guang decisively decided to slack off. Are you going to look at it or not? Wu Miaoan placed her hand on Qin Guang's brand new monitor. Her knuckles were white and it was obvious that she was accumulating strength. Qin Guang hesitated for 3 seconds. Look. At least you know what's good for you. You should have cooperated earlier. Xianxia silently put down the dagger on his neck. As the director of the general administration of Guangdong, and having two such capable subordinates, he was really living in an abyss of suffering. As he flipped through the notebook bitterly, Qin Guang thought to himself that when the old man mastered the painting scroll, he would definitely strip off the pants of these two traitors, hang them up and give them a spanking. These things were even more painful to read than the script. The entire process was boring to the extreme, from the slow probing of each other to the slow open discussion. Around 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, Qin Guang finally finished reading the notebook and tossed it aside. All passed. No problem at all. In fact, he was just making a blind judgment. Since the higher-ups thought that they could test the candidates, they were basically right from the start. The staff of the general administration of Guangdong were only given the final task of contacting them. Why is there no movement? I'm working so hard, why aren't they praising me? Qin Guang turned around and saw two people sitting on the sofa in the middle of the night with flushed faces. They placed the laptop on the coffee table and their eyes were glued to the screen. Next to the laptop was the box that Qin Guang had brought back. However, the password lock had already been unlocked by some unknown means. It was wide open and it was obvious that a hard drive was missing from it. Qin Guang tiptoed closer to it and realized that it was his precious H drive that was missing. What are you two looking at? Qin Guang shouted in a low voice. Xianxia and Wu Miaoan, who were glued to the screen, screamed at the same time. Xianxia scrambled to cover the monitor, while Wu Miaoan frantically tried to pull out the portable hard drive. Seeing that the situation was not good, Qin Guang quickly stopped Wu Miaoan's hand. Don't pull it out directly. There's important information about my company in there. If I break it, it'll be over. Your company is so low class. It's just a small piece. What important information? Aren't you ashamed? Xianxia retorted, her face full of disdain. Chapter 650. Qin Guang pushed the two of them aside and realized that they had clicked on the dozen or so high-quality movies that he had put together. What a cunning pair of eyes. Why are you still watching it when you know it's a small movie? We're watching you. After expending a lot of effort, Qin Guang finally managed to snatch his treasures back before glaring at the two of them. It's hard to guard against a thief in the house. I've already said that it's important information, so I really have no idea how you guys managed to pry it open. Wu Miaowan pointed at Xianxia. My dear, she's very good at picking locks. She's very familiar with these mechanisms. Little Miaowan, you betrayed me. Xianxia screamed. The two of them almost got into a fight again, but their attention quickly shifted to Qin Guang because he was packing up his computer and hard drive, planning to sneak back to his room. Breaking free from Wu Miaowan, Xianxia ran behind Qin Guang and asked sneakily, "What are you doing, Chief?" Qin Guang clenched his teeth and turned around. The old man wants to carefully check the integrity of the company's important assets. Wu Miaowan rolled her eyes, looking as if she had seen through him. I'm afraid the director wants to watch something inappropriate while doing something shameful on his own. Xianxia nodded. That's right. That must be it. And it's done in front of two cute little girls. How shameful. Scum. Disgrace to the light department. The two of them echoed each other. Qin Guang wanted to strangle them to death. Of course, if you're willing to talk to me about the Danqing scroll, I don't mind offering to accompany you. Xianxia finally showed her true colors. What? Danqing scroll? Wu Miaowan's eyes widened. She approached Qin Guang and grabbed his shoulder. My dear brother, I'm petite and skilled. Do you need a paid special service? You too play the victory card. Qin Guang slammed the door shut and roared from inside, Chief, second order. The two of you go to sleep. Miser. That's right. I've never seen such a stingy bureau chief. Qin Guang pressed his back against the door and ignored the two of them. There was no movement outside. Perhaps they had really gone to sleep, but after waiting for a few minutes, there were murmurs coming from outside again. Wu Miaowan said, Sweetheart, won't he be angry if we covet the painting scroll like this? This is a big taboo in Jianghu. Xianxia said, Don't worry, little Miao Miao. Our big bro chief is super generous. Even if he's really angry, he'll be fine after a little coaxing. How should I coax him? Next time when he showers, we'll wrap a towel around him and scrub him. Remember not to wear underwear. Then we'll quietly spread our legs and show him some light. I guarantee that all his problems will be gone. If that's the case, then it's really easy to coax him. Do you think he's really doing something bad in there? Of course. Let me tell you, he has no integrity and is completely shameless. Qin Guang opened the door. Can you two whisper any louder? At that time, Qin Guang swore in his heart that once he fulfilled his bet with Tang Ying, he would leave this place as soon as possible. At least he had to stay away from these two. However, he did not expect that his promise would be fulfilled so quickly. He was still in a daze when he sat in the military vehicle heading straight for the airport the next morning. Chief Chen, please take a look. This is the list of the main equipment for this military exercise. There's a general introduction of the equipment. Chu Hanji, the head of Tianguang Brokerage's cleaning department, was sitting next to Qin Guang in casual clothes. He handed him a thick stack of documents. Qin Guang took the pile of documents and asked casually, Didn't you say that the military exercise was the day after tomorrow? Why did it suddenly change to tomorrow? Can this kind of thing be changed at will? I didn't receive any notice. It's like this, Chief Chen. This is the result of a meeting with a few old leaders last night. There are some new changes. Recently, some internal forces are not very obedient and have been sending people into Yanjing. So the higher-ups have decided to hold the military exercise one day in advance to show them what we're made of, Chu Hanji said patiently. Chu Hanji patiently replied. This matter should be something that Chu Hanji had informed him on behalf of the old man, and Chu Hanji wanted him to pass it on to Qin Guang. Qin Guang nodded in understanding. So that's how it is. Well, to put it bluntly, the old masters are still afraid of encountering a rash internal force martial artist who is eager to make contributions. If they really do something like self-explosion and cause trouble, then it'll be a big problem. Oh, there's also a very special reason. The head of the Wen family, Wen, has now appeared in Yanjing and clearly stated that she can participate in the military exercise tomorrow. However, if it's the day after tomorrow, she won't have time. The main reason for bringing it forward is probably because of this. Chu Hanji was afraid that he would miss out on something. Oh, is that so? It's good. Not bad. Qin Guang's face was calm, but his heart was roaring. He thought that he was already considered a big shot now, but compared to Wen, it seemed that he was still too weak. To be honest, to bring forward the military exercise a day for her alone, he was really shameless. Luckily, the old man was thick-skinned and responded appropriately, or else he would have embarrassed himself. The person in the front passenger seat seemed to be an elder who was quite familiar with Zhou Hanji. After Qin Guang and Zhou Hanji finished talking about business, he turned around and joked, "Chief Qin, did little Chu cause any trouble for you at Tianguang Agency recently?" Qin Guang waved his hand. "Hi, how can that be? The company is cleaned every day and I'm very satisfied with little Chu." Zhou Hanji's throat seemed to be a little uncomfortable and he started coughing violently. The elder was a little puzzled. "Isn't little Chu the assistant of the chairman, Chief Qin? He's even in charge of cleaning?" Qin Guang patted Zhou Hanji's shoulder silently. "Not bad, young man. You have the demeanor of a chief. The head of the cleaning department advertised you as the chairman's assistant. Your skin is as thick as the old man's." "Yes, the chairman's assistant is my right-hand man. He has to take care of everything in the company no matter how big or small." "That's right." Under Zhou Hanji's pleading gaze, Qin Guang silently said these words that went against his conscience. However, seeing that the kid had tactfully sent him a transfer of 2,000 yuan, it was not a big deal to betray his conscience for once. "Alright, Chief Qin, take a good look at the information. These represent the most advanced technology in our military. This is not for the public but for internal reference. You don't usually have the chance to see it." The middle-aged man with a star on his shoulder said again, and then he didn't say anything else. When they arrived at the airport, Qin Guang returned the top-secret information before getting off the car. He had to take the plane to Yanjing with Zhou Hanji. When he was about to board the plane, Qin Guang was a little distracted. To be honest, he wasn't a military fan and he never cared much about the military. But some of the equipment written in the top-secret information he had just read really made him unable to calm down. He even felt like it was science fiction and that he had been fooled. The bionic skin-type full-fitting armor that could increase the strength of the wearer. The embedded retinal multifunction sighting device that could synchronize with the gun with the heat sensor. The single-soldier handheld heat-seeking sniper rifle. That's right, the kind that could bend bullets. The full-fitting and half-fitting single-soldier combat armor that looked like a miniature Gundam. The single-soldier flight backpack that weighed less than 30 kilograms. The maximum flight speed was more than 150 kilometers per hour. And it could fly at full speed for half an hour. There were more than 10 types of equipment similar to the above. If these things weren't written in the top-secret information, he would probably be able to see the real thing at the scene tomorrow. Qin Guang would only think that he was reading a science fiction novel. The so-called, "the country is rich and the people are strong and technology is the #1 productive force." These words only stayed in Qin Guang's mind before, and he only took it seriously when he saw it today. No wonder the old men were now so strong-willed that they were finally willing to use the special division as an example. They were going to use a new attitude to deal with the internal forces. Their confidence came from the heavy pile of information in his hands just now. In the past 20 to 30 years, mankind had made great strides along the unprecedented broad road, and the level of technology was changing with each passing day. Televisions had evolved from black and white kinescopes to the current LED, OLED, and even curved screens. Cars had evolved from diesel to the current high-energy internal combustion and even pure electric. Green trains had become bullet trains and continued to move toward magnetic levitation and vacuum tubes. The communication method that relied on operators to connect one line after another had also changed to the current 4G and even 5G smartphones. The guns in the hands of soldiers had also changed from AK or M4 to thermal imaging laser rapid-fire automatic rifles recorded in the information. The main battle tank had also changed from the imitation Type 59 duck egg head to the world's top CTZ-99 type. As for the Army 125 written in this information, it was incorporated into the modern technology in recent years, and the parameters were so fierce that it made people's hair stand on end. Although the current WZ-125 was only a few dozen top-secret engineering prototypes, it was enough to scare people. All of this changed too quickly and too violently. The individual weapons recorded in the information also represented the pinnacle of modern technology. Although it might not be able to be equipped on a large scale within a decade or two due to various reasons, it was more than enough to deal with the internal force martial artists. Qin Guang could imagine the expressions of the arrogant internal force martial artists during the individual military exercise. He was more and more confident in what he was going to do. These are all my backers. The more powerful my backer is, the stronger my backbone will be. Who asked you to be cocky? Who asked you to be arrogant? Who asked you to treat people's lives as grass? And who asked you to feel pain? He was a victim himself. He didn't have any feelings for the internal force martial artists, and he didn't think that they needed his sympathy. Sooner or later they would have to pay for what they did. Anyway, the people who were close to him in the internal force martial artist circle were his own people. As for the others, they were all enemies. Thinking of the military exercise tomorrow, his heart gradually began to look forward to it. Mr. Qin, get on the plane. Chu Hanji reminded him when he saw that Qin Guang was distracted. Qin Guang nodded. Sigh. Everything is good except for one thing. I guess I'll have to go back on my word when I get back. Chu Hanji didn't understand. Mr. Qin, what are you talking about? Qin Guang patted Chu Hanji's shoulder like an old man. Young man, you're still young. You don't understand the affairs of the elderly. That's right. Qin Guang was still thinking about the bet with Tang Ying. She went back on her word last night and didn't honor it. Today, when he went to Beijing, he would first participate in the military exercise, and then he would have to attend the Big Beard's movie signing ceremony. It would be at least a few days before he returned to Beijing, and school would have started by then. By that time, with Tang Ying's old amnesia, she would probably not recognize him anymore. With this incomparably melancholy in mind, Qin Guang and Chu Hanji went straight to the first-class cabin of the airline. As soon as the two sat down, Qin Guang felt a little strange. The person sitting next to him was a little sneaky. She was wearing a wide-brimmed hat, and ever since he sat down she had been covering her face tightly with the brim of the hat. She then curled up in the chair with her face facing the plane's glass window as if she had sprained her neck. Qin Guang unscrupulously sized up this woman. 10 seconds later he grinned. Yo, Sister Ying, what a coincidence. Tang Ying turned her head and put on a smile that was uglier than crying. This is really too much of a coincidence. Chu Hanji, who was sitting next to Qin Guang, also popped his head out. Mr. Tang, why are you here too? Tang Ying remembered this Tianguang agency's cleaning chief. Chief Chu, what are you two doing in Beijing? Chu Hanji was speechless for a moment. Only then did he remember that he was carrying out a top-secret mission. Qin Guang coughed lightly. To help your brother earn money. Now that the company is so big, I can't just dawdle around like before. I have to take the initiative. Aren't we going to sign a movie contract in a few days? I'll go to Beijing first to see if there are any other jobs I can take on. It's not easy for us. It's such a big company and I'm the CEO and the only signed artist. Why don't you make your debut too, Sister Ying? I think you have a lot of potential. Tang Ying rolled her eyes. Potential my ass. I'm someone who wants to win the Nobel Prize in medicine. Speaking of which, you're bringing a cleaning chief with you when you go out for business? You have such a unique taste. Chu Hanji hurriedly patted his chest and said, Mr. Tang, I'm definitely not going on a public holiday with Mr. Qin. Although our cleaning department doesn't have much say, we have a heavy responsibility. All the cleaning work in the company is our responsibility. As the chief, I have to personally take care of Mr. Chen's personal hygiene. I'm duty-bound. Tang Ying glanced at Chu Hanji with a playful look. You're right. If he forgets to zip up when he goes to the toilet, it's also your responsibility. Chu Hanji turned his face away. He felt that the more he said, the more mistakes he would make. It was better for him to play dead. Qin Guang keenly noticed that Tang Ying was deliberately changing the topic, so he forcefully pulled the topic back to her. You haven't told me what you're going to Beijing for. Tang Ying looked at him. If I say I'm going to attend the International Medical Conference, will you believe me? Do you think I'll believe you? Tang Ying spread her hands. I don't care if you believe me or not, I'll believe you. Actually, you're trying to cheat and run away. The plane is about to take off. The scenery outside is so beautiful. I'll stay wherever you stay tonight. I'm staying at Lady Tong's place. You want to come? Are you trying to challenge my courage? You shameful loser. Tang Ying began to act coquettishly and shook his arm. Don't be like this. Do you really think I can fly and hide in the sky? Give me a little more time. Just a little more time, okay? Qin Guang raised his head in a daze. There was nothing more sorrowful than a dead heart. I'll disband Tianguang Entertainment when I get back. This company has already broken my heart. Tang Ying turned to look at him. She was really shocked by his expression when his acting skills burst out. It seemed that she had really hurt him. She felt a little apologetic in her heart. She was the one who proposed the bet first, and now she really wanted to run away quietly and bumped into him. At first she thought that he had followed her to investigate her, but then she thought that he had a signing ceremony in Yanjing 2 days later. It seemed to be a coincidence and she deserved to be unlucky. If I continue to act like this, it'll be a little too much. Alright. I won't act shamelessly, okay? Tang Ying's eyes widened. Her face suddenly turned red. Then she moved her mouth closer to Qin Guang's ear and whispered, "Later, halfway through the flight, I'll pretend to sleep on your lap and you can find a loose jacket to cover my head. Then, you know what I mean. While I'm still in the mood, you have to seize the opportunity yourself. You won't get another chance like this if you miss it, okay? I'm really going to stay at Lady Tong's place. Even if you come, it'll have nothing to do with me. Don't let anything slip to her." Qin Guang's mouth opened wider and wider, forming an O shape. Delicious chicken. He was thankful for the first-class cabin and the row of seats. If it was the kind where one person could only have one seat, there would be no hope for today. It was just that this Zhou Xian beside him was a little annoying. If this bastard noticed something, wouldn't he lose all his prestige? Alright, Xiao Tang, do you want some sleeping pills? It'll take a long time to fly from Beijing to Beijing. I have a special medicine here. I guarantee there won't be any side effects. Take one and you'll sleep soundly. You won't wake up until you reach the ground. Zhou Xian recklessly took out a small bottle from his luggage and fawned over to Qin Guang. He was not lying. This was a special medicine given to him by his uncle, Secretary Chu. Qin Guang's eyes lit up. Yo, Xiao Chu, what's the maximum dosage of this medicine you can take at one time? 3. What's wrong, Xiaochen? Then you'll take 3. Why? When you worked at your previous unit, did you also ask why when your superior assigned you a task? Qin Guang looked at him meaningfully. Zhou Xian was stunned and broke out in a cold sweat. A minute later, with an inexplicable sense of grief and indignation, he gritted his teeth and threw 3 special sleeping pills into his mouth. Before he completely passed out, he finally realized something. Xiao Qin and Xiao Tang are having an affair. What a beast. No wonder he's the winner in life, Chief Instructor Qin. As the plane continued to roar, the plane from Beijing to Beijing pierced through the clouds. The thick clouds outside the window were like waves, and a bright red sun hung high in the distance. The sun above the clouds looked particularly dazzling. Tang Ying turned her head for a while and felt her eyes were a little sore. She looked back and saw Qin Guang staring at her blankly. She smiled charmingly and stretched. "I'm a little sleepy." Chapter 651. Qin Guang continued to stare at her blankly. Perhaps it was because of the bright sunlight shining in through the window, but at this moment, Tang Ying looked exceptionally charming and moving. She was even more charming than when she was focused on the operating table with the scalpel. Although he had always known that she was beautiful, and that she also had a kind of strange charm that quietly moisturized everything, at this moment her simple smile and even more simple stretching posture made her charm even more vivid and vivid. Qin Guang's eyes gradually straightened. Tang Ying's hands were raised high, and her chest looked especially straight because of her stretching posture. He couldn't help but think of the first time he met her in his car. At that time she was drunk and curled up in his car like a little lazy cat. At that time she was wearing tight casual pants that highlighted her slender thighs and perfectly round and perky buttocks, making her look particularly charming. This time his focus was different, but it was even more captivating. Tang Ying's heart went numb under his fixed gaze, and her face became even redder. She stretched out a finger and lightly tapped his forehead. "I thought that you, a dummy, only had eyes for Wu Tong and your teacher Zhua." Qin Guang shook his head like a wooden man. "No, Sister Ying, you're also very beautiful. Compared to your classmate?" Tang Ying had met Sun Xiaoxuan before, and she had a deep impression of this delicate girl from Jiangnan's water village. Qin Guang replied without hesitation, "Each has their own merits. You two are different women." It seems that Lady Tong was right about one thing. Tang Ying blinked her misty eyes. "What did Sister Wu Tong say about me?" "She said that although you're a very responsible little boy most of the time, Your willpower is so weak that people can't look at you directly. You're also very perverted and your skin is super thick. Tang Ying began to slowly lean her body towards Qin Guang, her lips almost touching his earlobe. She exhaled a fragrant breath and said, Lady Tong told me that after you saved her, the two of you stayed in the hospital that night. You just listened to the sound of her bathing and you had an erection, right? At that time I really thought that your kidneys were not light. Only later did I realize that you had deceived me so badly. As Tang Ying spoke, her breath gently brushed against Qin Guang's earlobe. The faint fragrance from her body wafted into his nostrils, causing him to feel something. Of course, Qin Guang knew what was going on. At that time he had just mastered the Qilin arm. I'm not bragging, but if you find me a bent steel pipe and pass it through my hands, I can also squeeze molten steel out of it. Tang Ying's gaze drifted downwards, her face turning even redder, even to the tips of her ears. You're really dishonest. She yawned again. I'm really tired. I'll take a nap on your lap. As she spoke, she gradually lay down. Qin Guang's eyes widened. Tang Ying, who was pretending to sleep, pinched his thigh again. He quickly snapped back to his senses and pulled over the windbreaker that Tang Ying had placed beside her. He casually covered her body with it, then slowly pulled it up until it covered her entire head. It didn't take long before his pants were pulled open bit by bit. Then he had no idea what was going on. Perhaps it was her hand or perhaps it was something else. Sometimes it was warm, sometimes it was tight, and sometimes he felt a cool breeze blowing in through the gaps of the windbreaker. It was a feeling that was hard to describe with words. The biggest stimulation came from the environment he was in. Although the density of passengers in the first-class cabin was not as high as the economy cabin, there were still people in front and behind Qin Guang. Looking up, he saw a flight attendant sitting not far away, waiting for a passenger to summon her. She could get up at any time. Qin Guang straightened his neck and leaned hard against the back of his seat. His eyes were filled with confusion, but he was afraid that someone would notice something. He had no choice but to put on a serious face as though he was deep in thought. This kind of feeling was too torturous. Under the windbreaker, Tang Ying seemed to be a little angry. Why was this guy so difficult to deal with? Then she raised her hand. Qin Guang's mind suddenly went blank. Even now he still felt that it was unbelievable. How did things suddenly turn out like this? If the flight attendant came over and asked him if he needed anything, or if she was his fan and wanted to ask for an autograph, or if the people in the front and back rows raised their heads and found out that he was an omnipotent Superman, or if that unlucky guy Chu Hanji's sleeping pills were fake, he would wake up at this time. Well, no matter what the situation was, he might have to face the collapse of his life. The more afraid he was, the more intense the stimulation was. He began to feel nervous, hoping that this matter would end as soon as possible. But he was the strongest pile driver in history. The more afraid he was, the more things he had to worry about and the more uncontrollable he would be. Qin Guang's heart beat faster and faster. He swore again and again that next time he would definitely not be greedy for this kind of special stimulation. Why did he have to choose this kind of public occasion to do bad things? It was simply too scary, okay? But although he swore in his heart, his body was exceptionally honest. This was really the greatest enjoyment in the world. Unknowingly, his left hand pressed on the windbreaker tighter and tighter, and his right hand quietly moved under the windbreaker, pretending to hug Tang Ying's waist under the windbreaker, but in fact he was moving up bit by bit. About 15 minutes later, finally, everything was over. This special situation, this special person, and this special feeling of tension made certain things happen faster than expected. He retracted his hand bit by bit. Before that, he slightly pulled down Tang Ying's messy clothes and arranged them neatly. His face regained its radiance of confidence, and there was no longer any trace of guilt on his face. As a person, it was better to be more confident. At the same time, his CK underwear was slowly pulled back. It seemed that Tang Ying had thoughtfully put a layer of tissue on it before this. The zipper was pulled back little by little. The whole movement was very gentle and very careful. Tang Ying pinched his thigh again. Qin Guang knew that she was almost done. He let out a long sigh of relief and touched his temple. There was cold sweat. Strange, why didn't she get up? Qin Guang was puzzled. She couldn't have fallen asleep, right? Hello, dear passengers. Would you like to drink coffee, tea or Coke? At this time, the flight attendant who had been sitting at the head of the cabin suddenly stood up and then began to ask the passengers what they wanted to drink. Thank you, orange juice. Unfortunately, Qin Guang was in the third row. The passengers in the first row said that they didn't want anything, and the passengers in the second row asked for orange juice. Then the flight attendant quickly asked Qin Guang. When she got closer, the beautiful flight attendant seemed to notice Qin Guang's face. She was a little surprised at first, then she stared at him carefully. After a while, she reacted and said, "Hello, Mr. Qin. What would you like to drink?" Well, she recognized him. While speaking, the flight attendant looked down at Tang Ying, who was lying on Qin Guang's lap pretending to be asleep. There was a sense of curiosity in her eyes. Qin Guang grinned. Milk. Then his thigh was pinched by Tang Ying again and he felt a sharp pain. Qin Guang swore that in the next customized special training he must first train this thigh muscle. Sorry, Mr. Qin, we don't have milk. The flight attendant still had a professional smile on her face, but her eyes were clearly shining with the light of gossip. Coffee then, thank you. Qin Guang just wanted to send her away. The flight attendant quickly poured a cup of hot coffee for Qin Guang, and then began to hand it to Qin Guang. At this moment, Qin Guang was alarmed. A stewardess like you will definitely be fired. Sure enough, with Chu Hanji between them, her hand seemed to be a little unstable. The cup in her hand was shaking and there was a risk that it would be knocked over at any time. This girl wanted to make a big news. She just wanted to know who was lying on her lap. When Qin Guang realized that something was wrong, it was already a step too late. The plane seemed to be shaking at the wrong time. Her hand shook violently and the hot coffee spilled on Tang Ying's windbreaker. I'm sorry. Tang Ying felt a warm sensation on her neck, and she knew that she couldn't pretend anymore. She secretly glared angrily and with a gulp her tongue suddenly rolled around in her mouth. She then pretended to be sleepy and straightened her body in a daze. What's wrong? Then she realized that her windbreaker had been splashed with a large amount of coffee. Fortunately, it was all blocked and the clothes inside were not wet. The gossipy flight attendant looked flustered. She took out a tissue from her pocket and pretended to help Tang Ying wipe the coffee off. However, Tang Ying gave her a sweet smile. It's okay. I'm not wearing this anyway. I'll just take it back and wash it. Give me a glass of orange juice. That's right, it's aged orange juice. Thank you. Qin Guang's thigh was hit again. Sorry, we don't have orange juice. Coke it is then. Hey, Miss Tang. Tang Ying said in surprise, you know me? Yes, I saw Tingguang Agency's press conference a few days ago. I know you're the vice president of Tingguang Agency. Tang Ying laughed. Oh, you're also a fan of our Qin Guang? Yes, I've been following Mr. Chen's Weibo since a long time ago. I really like pencil carvings. When will Mr. Chen come out with new pencil carvings? Qin Guang laughed it off. There's no rush. He'll come out. It's a pity that we're not allowed to bring a penknife on the plane. Otherwise, I'd carve one for you right now. The gossipy flight attendant was finally sent away. Since she knew Tang Ying, it was fine. It didn't seem like a big deal that the vice president of Tingguang Agency was on good terms with Qin Guang. Qin Guang let out a long sigh and said to Tang Ying in a low voice, this flight attendant must have only been working for a few days. She's too unprofessional. Even if she's a groupie, she shouldn't cause trouble on the plane. Tang Ying ignored him and continued to look out the window. No one knew what she was thinking. Qin Guang didn't know why she was angry and was very confused. Wait, I seem to have forgotten something. Maybe, Sister Tang Ying. Qin Guang probed anxiously. Tang Ying gulped down a mouthful of Coke. Old juice doesn't taste good at all. Sinks. Don't talk to me. I want some peace and quiet. Don't ask me who peace and quiet are. Qin Guang finally realized the problem and couldn't control his smugness. But high protein is very nourishing. It's good for beauty. Tang Ying turned around and grinned. Don't be so cocky. If you piss me off, I'll put you under anesthesia and cut it off. Qin Guang glared at her and touched his teeth. Sister Tang Ying, there's a line hanging from the edge of your teeth. Tang Ying rolled her eyes and turned her face away. Her throat moved, but no one knew if she was swallowing saliva or something else. Poor Chu Hanji. He didn't wake up even when the plane arrived at the station. He was carried by Qin Guang. After getting off the plane, Tang Ying didn't go with Qin Guang. She seemed to be really there to attend some medical conference. She got into the car arranged for her by the conference organizer and left. On the other hand, Qin Guang was more than happy. He threw Chu Hanji into the hongqi that his superiors had secretly arranged for him before he made another call. Since he had already lied to Tang Ying, then he had to cover it up. Since Tianguang Brokerage's people had nothing better to do, he might as well summon them all over to Beijing. Regardless of whether it was a vacation or a cover for him, it wouldn't be a problem. The stewardess on the plane also reminded Chen Guang that it was time to consider expanding the influence of the pencil-sharpening world. Among all the worlds in a cup that he had perfected, only the world of piano and the world of sharpening pencils had a daily production of faith value of 4 digits. Among them, the world of piano had a daily production of less than 3,500, and the world of sharpening pencils had a daily production of less than 1,500. Compared to the other worlds in a cup, it was really shabby. For example, the world of the sword tower and the world of darts were already maxed out. Even the world of the Kirin arm was 18,000. The world of the racing god training ground was as high as 26,000. The world of the pile driver was almost naturally maxed out. Up until now, he had only enjoyed the special training of building the strongest body for 3 months. The beggar version of the world in a cup that only required 600,000 faith points was too much for him. The poor version of the world in a cup wasn't much better either. The luxury version of the world in a cup that only required 1.2 million faith points for each session was barely acceptable. The need for faith points was infinitely large. It would be too much for him to rely on himself. He should make use of Tianguang agency. Money wasn't a problem. It didn't matter how much losses he incurred. Anyway, the elders just wanted him to be a high-profile prodigal. Therefore, to quickly increase the production of faith points, he had to start with the world of pencil sharpening and piano. Yu Hong, Yu Fong Tianyu and Lu Xiaoyang have all come to Yanjing. You've all seen my Weibo, right? My next goal is to promote the influence of my pencil sharpening and microcarving skills. Help me think of ways. Be it spending money or hiring people, organizing activities or competitions, it's not a problem. I only have one goal, and that is to make me more famous. Let more and more people know that I'm good at this. Even sharpening pencils can be packaged as a high art. If possible, put it on UNESCO's Intangible Cultural Heritage list. What? Afraid of losses? It's not time for our company to reap the harvest yet. Continuing to package my image is the most important. Find a big stage for me, a big platform, make me more popular. As long as I'm popular, our company won't fall. Do you understand? Time is tight, so all 3 of you come. Do your best. Try your best to accomplish something while I'm in Yanjing. Oh yes, I'm good at playing the piano too. To put it bluntly, I'm the best piano player in the world. The 3 of you have to think of ways to help me expand my reputation as the best pianist. Brag or create hype, it's not a problem. What? There's no first place in literature and no second place in martial arts. Will others be unconvinced? I don't care who is unconvinced. As long as there are people who are convinced, it's fine. Furthermore, it's good that more people are unconvinced. Let's organize a competition and let them compete with me. Remember, for these few days, the most important thing is to sharpen pencils. The second is to play the piano, and then it's my turn to participate in Uncle Big Beard's movie signing ceremony. As for other commercials, visits, announcements and the like, don't accept any of them. Also, don't do anything about the knife tower and darts. I'm not interested in these 2 things. After Qin Guang hung up the phone, Yu Hong and the other 2 looked at the business development plan that had just been sorted out and looked at each other. This plan was the blood and sweat of the company's middle management. It involved the packaging of Qin Guang's personal image and the entire business development system. From Weibo jokes to advertisements, to live streaming program planning, to advertising endorsement negotiations, and finally, a series of contracts that Qin Guang considered participating in variety shows and even esports promotions, all of which were rejected. Only one of them could be kept. Lu Xiaoyang was trying to find a connection, and if it was successful, he might be able to get Qin Guang to hold a piano concert in the Golden Hall of Vienna. However, it wasn't something that could be done in a short period of time. The 3 of them suddenly had a feeling. Why don't we pack up and go back home to farm? We'll starve if we follow Xiao Chen. Chapter 652. Yu Hong felt that he was in an awkward situation. To think that I, the core member of the Tang Jie Foundation who was deeply trusted by Tang Xiaokai, came all the way back to the country to be your right-hand man. Although Mr. Tang had previously said that it didn't matter if the company was making a profit or losing money, Mr. Chen's attitude was a little too casual. Alright, no matter how much Yu Hong felt, he still followed Qin Guang's instructions and went to Beijing with Feng Tianyu and Lu Xiaoyang to carry out the mission that Qin Guang had casually thrown out. It didn't matter if the boss's decision was stupid or not, but as the boss's subordinate, even if he knew that the decision was stupid and fraudulent, he still had to complete the task given by the boss since he was still receiving his salary. If he did his job properly, it would be the boss's fault if he lost money in the end. If he didn't complete the task given by the boss, he might not be happy even if he helped him earn money in the end. What if Mr. Chen really had a far-sighted plan and could use his sharp judgment to see through the market and point to the core of the company's development when they still couldn't understand it? What if what he said was right? Idiot. Wake up. They were getting closer and closer to a heavily guarded villa, but Chu Hanji was still snoring loudly. Qin Guang began to panic. If Secretary Chu knew that he had forced his nephew to take 3 hypnotic pills, Secretary Chu would fight him to the death, right? Finally, Chu Hanji opened his eyes in a daze. See, Chief Chen, where are we now? I'm not very sure either. We just passed 2 especially large huangwa trees, the kind that would require 7 or 8 people to wrap their arms around it. The forest in front is very dense. I didn't expect there to be such a place in Beijing. Seeing that he had finally woken up, Qin Guang felt relieved. What? Chu Hanji let out a low cry, then abruptly came to his senses. He sat up straight and subconsciously tidied up his clothes. Why are you so surprised? Chu Hanji saw that he didn't take it seriously, so he reminded him softly, Chief Chen, we're almost there. Be serious. Qin Guang was even more puzzled. Do you have to be like this? Do you really have to be like this? I'm going to see the bureau chief. Chief Chen. Chu Hanji's breathing quickened. Yes, and then? Could meeting the bureau chief prolong one's life? Your ribs are about to break, aren't they? Chief Chen, are you really not nervous? That's the chiefs we're talking about. Patting on Su Tao's shoulder, Qin Guang replied, Lad, I've never felt that I'm a big shot in the past. But ever since I met you, I've started to believe that I do have the talent to become a big shot. He really didn't understand what those old men had to be afraid of. Anyway, even if he held a knife to his neck, he wouldn't be as inexplicably nervous as Chu Hanji. After passing through layers of extremely tight security, the car finally stopped outside a courtyard house with vermilion doors and sorghum. Qin Guang got out of the car. Secretary Chu was waiting at the door. He still had that warm smile on his face. As an exceptionally important secretary, he had truly done his best to be a person. Chu Hanji, who got out of the car with him, looked at his uncle nervously. He lowered his head and didn't dare to say anything. Secretary Chu first waved at Qin Guang. Little Qin, you're here. The chiefs are all waiting for you. Qin Guang greeted Secretary Chu and went in on his own. He didn't know where to throw Chu Hanji. This poor guy wasn't qualified to enter the courtyard house. As soon as he entered, Qin Guang saw a few old men sitting under a tree, shouting and playing chess. Old Jiang and Old Jean were sitting opposite each other, and a bunch of old men that he had never seen before were pointing fingers at each other. It was a lively scene, and there wasn't the slightest bit of tension or seriousness in the atmosphere. Recalling how Chu Hanji was so nervous that he started sweating, Qin Guang found it funny. Is there a need for that? Oh, little Qin is here? Great, let's talk about something. On the other side, Old Jiang, who was scratching his ears and cheeks, looked around and saw Qin Guang when he raised his head, and he abruptly stood up. Don't you dare run. Finish this game. Old Jean didn't agree. Old Jiang quietly moved his big butt and touched the chessboard lightly. The chessboard was overturned, and with a clattering sound, black and white chess pieces were scattered all over the ground. Ah, the chessboard is overturned. Forget it, Old Jean, I won't argue with you today. It's a draw, okay? Go to hell. I have at least 5 more eyes than you, and you have the cheek to say it's a draw? You disrespectful old man, I'm going to kill you. Old Jean rolled up his sleeves and was about to charge at him. All right. Be quiet. Don't let the younger generation laugh at you. An old man on the side coughed seriously and finally calmed the crowd down. Qin Guang looked at the group of old men quietly and thought to himself, although you say don't let me laugh at you, your bodies are exceptionally honest when you are fighting. It seemed that with his arrival, this unique game of chess and the amateur activity of gossiping about despicable people had officially come to an end. Old man Jin put down his dispute and ran over to pull him back. The other group of old men went to the main hall of the courtyard one after another. It seemed that they were going to discuss something. Chen Guang, come here. I have something to ask you. Old Jin smiled and pulled Chen Guang to a corner of the courtyard. The afternoon sun shone on the small courtyard, and the cicadas on the trees were singing the last song of summer. The leaves were blown by the wind, and the air was filled with the faint scent of grass and flowers. The scene looked very harmonious, but Chen Guang felt a chill in his heart. He didn't know why, but he was a little nervous when he saw this old man. Although he knew that he would have to see him in Beijing, he was terrified when he actually saw him. What if he forced me to marry him? How should I answer him? Just thinking about it gives me a headache. Grandpa Jin this, that. Fine, he could understand Chu Hanji's feelings a little. But that kid was born to be inferior to others while he felt guilty. Unexpectedly, old Master Jin did not talk about Jin Shuiwei with him. Instead he smiled and asked with concern. How is it? Are you enjoying your position as the head bureau chief? Nodding his head, Chen Guang replied, everything's fine. You came to Beijing alone this time, right? Are the two deputy chiefs staying in Beijing? Old Master Jin continued to ask with a smile. Chen Guang nodded. Yes. There are more things to do at the headquarters recently. Fortunately, they are helping me. Otherwise, I won't be able to handle it alone. He shamelessly asked for credit. In truth, Xin Qin and Wu Miaowan had already done everything. He was even unwilling to look at the summary report. They would have to put a knife to his neck to do so. The two of them didn't cause any trouble? Did they listen to your orders? Old Master Jin widened his eyes slightly and seemed a little surprised. Chen Guang nodded. It's all right. Xin Qin and Wu Miaowan are very obedient. Old Master Jin's eyes narrowed into slits. He seemed to be satisfied with Chen Guang. Since you said so, we can rest assured. We were worried that the people from the Thousand Despair sect and Thousand Flower Valley would be arrogant and unruly. I didn't expect you to make them so obedient. When I recommended you to be the head of the Guangding headquarters, many people had different opinions. You did a good job and didn't make things difficult for me. Only then did Chen Guang realize something. It seemed that it was an incredible ability to command Xin Qin and Wu Miaowan around like a madman. When he thought about it, it made sense. The two little Lolas were inner force martial artists after all. They were highly skilled and their personalities were jumpy. It was indeed difficult for ordinary people to control them. He had also relied on his charm to seduce them. Pfft. He had relied on his personal charm. Perhaps it was the temptation of the painting scroll, or maybe it was his godly dart skills and fame in the global escort industry that helped Xin Qin increase the influence of her Thousand Despair sect. In short, little Xin Qin had inexplicably relied on him. At the same time, her bestie Wu Miaowan also became easier to talk to. So this is what I'm capable of? I was born to do great things. Grandpa Jin, you flatter me. This is what I should do. Chen Guang cupped his hands slightly and said humbly with his head lowered. I'm not flattering you. You don't know how difficult it was for us to deal with inner force martial artists in the past. Otherwise, we wouldn't have made no progress in the past few decades. This time we made up our minds and fought with our lives on the line just to get things done once and for all. Those strong people are arrogant and unreasonable. That's why we came up with the idea of using martial arts to rule martial arts. If we want the Guangding General Bureau to escape the vicious circle of the Special Affairs Bureau, we have to cooperate with martial artists from the beginning and integrate them into our own system. However, in the past our dealings with martial artists often ended on bad terms. It's extremely difficult for both parties to come to an agreement, but you've solved the problem. Of course, it's all thanks to you. Chen Guang asked curiously, but as far as I know, the Thousand Despair sect and the Thousand Flower Valley aren't very strong martial arts forces, are they? If you want to use martial arts to rule martial arts, you should at least find a strong enough partner, right? Old man Jin rolled his eyes. Do you think we don't want to? However, the stronger the sect, the more arrogant they are. We can't even contact them, let alone work together. The Thousand Despair sect's abbess took the initiative to propose a partnership, and we're more than happy. Why would we be picky? Besides, using martial arts to rule martial arts doesn't mean that the martial artists were on good terms with our strong. They're just a link for communication. What really allows us to hold our heads up high is still the power in our own hands. As for which sect your two deputy chiefs are from, that's not important. Qin Guang nodded. That's true. Grandpa Jin, you're right. The older the wiser. Don't let your guard down too much. For now, the Guangding General Bureau only needs to communicate with the Special Affairs Bureau's personnel who can be instigated. However, once the individual military exercise ends tomorrow, there will be martial arts forces spying on us one after another. At that time, how do we convey the spirit of the central government? How do we make these people vigilant and not dare to act recklessly without being overly sensitive and conflicted? How do the two sides reach a specific cooperation intention? That's the most difficult part of our work. Qin Guang began to feel dizzy. Old man seemed to be in the zone, but I don't really want to hear about these things. I just want to take my revenge and help Wen solve her problems, okay? At present, the most basic standards we've set are as follows. First of all, we need to distinguish whether these people are real or fake. If we find people who are pretending to be but actually have ulterior motives, or people who keep giving advice and acting recklessly, you need to report it immediately. If necessary, we'll use our military force to strike them down as a warning to others. If they're real, we need to have a detailed discussion with them. We need them to hand over a list of their members and the specific location of their sect. At the very least, we need to know which people are inner force martial artists. If we encounter a particularly weak sect, we can try to exchange techniques with them with suitable conditions. Qin Guang basically wanted to fall asleep. It was a hot summer day and he was sitting under the shade of a tree. It was a good time to take an afternoon nap. In addition, the temporary administrative measures for inner force martial artists that we're drafting will also clarify the scope of their privileges. We won't completely deprive them of their privileges. After all, they're also capable people and deserve to be respected. However, their privileges will no longer be as boundless as before. It's strictly forbidden to treat ordinary people as if they were grass. Qin Guang's eyes narrowed and he seemed to be listening very carefully. Once the cooperation between the two parties is confirmed, the other party will at least have to be registered in the Guangding General Bureau. Entering and leaving the country will also be regulated. If a large-scale fight inevitably breaks out, it must be reported and registered, and the innocent must not be harmed. Even if it's added later, it's acceptable. The registration of a sect will have a certain degree of economic and political advantage, but our ultimate goal is to form a deeper cooperation. Of course, all of this is just an armchair strategist like us old men. We still have to wait for the matter between the Wen family and the dark sect to come to an end. Right now, these two forces are in a fierce battle, and the outcome will affect the entire pugilistic world of inner force martial artists. We still need you to maintain communication with the Wen family and provide them with the necessary help. Currently, we're more optimistic about the moderate Wen family. Hey, Qin Guang. Qin Guang. Alright, Grandpa Jin. I'll definitely complete the mission. Hee hee, young man, I'm relieved that you're so confident. Old Master Jin patted Qin Guang's shoulder again. He was very satisfied with his high fighting spirit. Alright, I can tell that you don't like to stay with old guys like us. The side yard next door is a place for you young people to gather. Go there and wander around. Only the young people have a common language. I'm going in for the meeting. Finally, they could escape. Qin Guang and Old Master Jin nodded and were about to leave. By the way, don't let Shuiwei down. She's really serious about you. Old Master Jin suddenly added behind Qin Guang. Qin Guang's body stiffened and he slowly turned around like a wooden man. Just as he was about to say something to fool the old man, he realized that the old man had already stepped into the inner gate. He did not even wait for him to reply. Chapter 653. Secretary Chu had already walked over with a strange smile on his face. Little Qin, come over here. There are quite a lot of youngsters here today. I'm sure you guys have something to talk about. Qin Guang didn't want to talk to any youngsters. His mind was filled with memories of what Old Master Jin said when he was in a daze just now. Forget it, don't worry about the details. I'll just deal with it as it comes. Unlike the courtyard house where the old masters were, the side house next to it was much more lively. But when Qin Guang saw the bunch of youngsters that Old Master Jin mentioned, he felt a headache coming on. The youngsters in your house are all old guys in their 40s and 50s. I should call the youngest one here uncle, okay? That's right, isn't that my uncle Wu Shanwu who is wandering around in the crowd? What the *CK can I have in common with these old men? I just want to find a quiet place to hook up with the female fans on Weibo, okay? That's right, the people gathered in the side house weren't the group of youngsters that he ate with at the youth hall last time. Instead, they were the parents of those youngsters. Currently, there were many youngsters who held real power in the country, be it in the military or in the political circle. In short, none of them were simple. In a sense, to old Master Jin, they were indeed the standard youngsters. Like Xin Yuliang or those high school girls in the youth hall, they weren't even qualified to participate in the meetings and gatherings of this place. Perhaps Bai Hua was qualified to attend, but he was still considered a junior. Yo, brother Qin is here. Welcome, welcome. While Qin Guang was in a daze, a robust man donned in military uniform came over and patted Qin Guang's shoulder with a chuckle before calling him Big Brother Qin. Qin Guang looked at this man quietly and thought, Uncle, you look quite similar to old Master Jiang. Coupled with your body, bald head and your fierce face with a big beard, for some reason I really want to kneel down when you call me brother. Come, let me introduce everyone to you. Alright, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Jiang Yuanchao, Jiang Yage's father. Young man, don't be nervous. I just lost a bet with Wu Shan. I said that if I lost I would have to call you Brother Qin. It was just a joke. Don't worry about titles. The middle-aged baldy happily patted Qin Guang's shoulder and called him Brother Qin again. After that he even raised his eyebrows provocatively at Wu Shan, who was standing awkwardly to the side. Qin Guang couldn't help thinking of the unreasonable baldy old Master Jiang, and then the equally unreasonable and unconventional Jiang Yage. At this moment Jiang Yuanchao was completely in line with the logic of not being part of the same family. Oh, no, he was half a father-in-law. You calling me brother makes me want to shorten my life. He wanted to die. Don't. Please don't. Uncle Jiang, you can just call me Little Qin or Qin Guang, or you can call me nephew. Please don't call me brother, it gives me goosebumps. Qin Guang struggled as he was pulled forward by Jiang Yuanchao. Sai, you're so boring. Didn't I hear that you're very impudent? You can't even take a little joke, it's not fun at all. Jiang Yuanchao seemed to be joking as he said this angrily. By then the two had reached Wu Shan's side. Wu Shan was amused by Qin Guang's timid behavior. Wu Shan couldn't help recalling Qin Guang, who had tried Su Lijing and Wang Ren in court. At that time Qin Guang was really unexpected. He was also cold and decisive. Compared to his current embarrassed appearance, Qin Guang seemed like a completely different person. Wu Shan smiled and leaned over. Qin Guang, don't be nervous. Jiang Yuanchao likes to joke around. He's already so old but he's still so impudent. But in terms of rank you're not much worse than us, so it's not a big deal to call you brother. How about I call you Brother Qin too? Qin Guang's eyes widened. Oh my god, two father-in-law calling me brother at the same time, I'm so nervous. I'm going to get my karma. Seeing that he was about to turn and run, Wu Shan and Jiang Yuanchao stopped joking with him. They were elders after all, and teasing Qin Guang was to help him blend into the environment. In fact, Wu Shan's feelings were extremely complicated. He understood his daughter's feelings for Qin Guang, but he also knew that this kid wasn't just a fish in a pond, nor was he someone easy to deal with. Unknowingly, more and more people noticed him. Putting aside his temperament, who would have thought that in his not-so-muscular body, there was actually an explosive force of 800 kilograms of fist force? How terrifying was that? He was definitely not as simple as he looked on the surface. If he had a choice, Wu Shan really wanted to have a good talk with Wu Tong and ask her to stay away from Qin Guang, so far away that she would never see him again. But Wu Shan knew that this was just his wishful thinking. He had already put in a lot of effort to make Wu Tong stay in Yanjing, and Qin Guang had even asked for it. Based on his father-daughter relationship with Wu Tong, she would do whatever he wanted her to do. Forget it, I'll just let it be. That brat, Qin Guang, isn't like Shiman Qing or Qin Shimi without a conscience. He has his own responsibilities, and if my daughter really wants to fly into the fire, how can I stop her? From the moment Wu Shan made the decision to agree to let Shijiao bring Wu Tong onto the helicopter, even though he knew that there was a bomb on the helicopter, Wu Shan knew that he had no right to interfere with any of Wu Tong's decisions. This was because her life was saved by Qin Guang. If it weren't for Qin Guang, Wu Tong and Shurjio would have been blown up into a cloud of fireworks in the sky. He could lie to others, but he couldn't lie to his own heart. On the other side, Jiang Yuanchao had already started introducing Qin Guang to the people one by one. Just as Qin Guang had expected, these people were all big shots from various departments, provinces or military regions. They were all young people, or more precisely young and vigorous. Even though he knew that his current status as the head of the general administration of Guangdong was not much lower than that of the people present, he still felt awkward. There was really nothing to talk about with these uncles. What made him most uncomfortable was that there was something magical in the world of these adults. That was when others greeted you with a warm smile on their faces, but in fact, there was deep disdain and jealousy hidden in their eyes. To put it bluntly, Wu Shan was probably the only one here who was really familiar with Qin Guang. Jiang Yuanchao probably had a good impression of Qin Guang because he often heard Jiang Yage talk about him. As for the others, it was the first time that they had met Qin Guang in person, so they were completely unfamiliar with him. Where there were people, there would be Jianghu. This so-called Jianghu was the way of the world. To put it bluntly, it was competition. To put it even more bluntly, it was factions. Wu Shan, Jiang Yuanchao, Jin Shiyue's father and Shui Lin's father, Shui Zhan, should belong to the same faction. Although the courtyard was bustling with dozens of people walking around in groups of twos and threes, with smiles on everyone's faces and warm greetings, there were actually at least 3 to 4 different forces and factions here. In their seemingly meaningless chatter, there were hidden blades and swords. It was hard to understand if one did not personally experience it. Sometimes, even in this kind of informal and casual social occasion, a wrong word or a wrong attitude could bring far-reaching consequences. Qin Guang was young and did not come from a prominent family. He was inexplicably pushed to his current position. Although he did not take it seriously, and the people here who really knew his identity as the director of the Guangdong General Bureau were only talking about a few core members, just from the fact that Secretary Chu brought him here, it could be seen that in the hearts of the elders, Qin Guang was on the same level as all the young people here. His appearance made the already turbulent social occasion even more turbulent. There would always be people who were jealous and dissatisfied. Qin Guang was too young and his appearance was too sudden. Compared to these people who had climbed to their positions step by step, it was too unreasonable. In the eyes of some people who knew a little inside information but did not know everything, Qin Guang was able to attend this occasion because of the Jin family's care for him. But this care was too much, and even Lin Jingwei was not qualified to do so. As one of the core members here, Jiang Yuanchao also acted too familiar with Qin Guang, which stung many people's hearts. No matter how easygoing their smiles were, how could the jealousy and hatred in the depths of their eyes escape the eyes of Qin Guang, the world-class acting master? Although they were experienced, skilled in deception, and each of them boasted of their excellent acting skills, Qin Guang was the best acting master in history. Hence he didn't want to stay here, nor did he want to stay here. As an old monster that has lived for 200 years, Qin Guang didn't want to argue with these people. Perhaps the old masters had good intentions, letting him show Jiang Yuanchao and Wu Shan around in this kind of occasion. If he really wanted to enter politics in the future, this was a rare opportunity for him to practice. But he did not like it. You guys treat it like a treasure, but I throw it away like a broken broom, okay? Well, Uncle Jiang, Uncle Wu, I'm a little sleepy. Why don't you guys talk? I'll find a place to rest. After exchanging a few words with the last group of people and being praised for being a talented young man, Qin Guang bade farewell to Jiang Yuanchao and Wu Shan and was ready to leave. Before Jiang Yuanchao and Wu Shan could say anything, a middle-aged man in a suit came over and said with a fake smile, "Little Qin, your body is a little weak. You're so young, but you're already sleepy in the middle of the day. How are you going to take on heavy responsibilities in the future?" Qin Guang turned his head to look at this man. He had just had a brief conversation with this slightly chubby middle-aged man with mixed silver and white hair. Unlike the others who mostly had disdain and jealousy in their eyes, this guy's eyes were clearly filled with hatred. If he remembered correctly, this man was a director of the Ministry of Finance in the same department as Su Lijing, who had already ascended to heaven. He might even be Su Lijing's student. An enemy, no doubt. Many people were also paying attention to this side. It seemed that everyone wanted to see Qin Guang's reaction, to see how shrewd he was. Being famous at a young age was not scary, but being mature at a young age was really scary. In fact, it wasn't that Qin Guang didn't know how to be shrewd, but for this kind of person who stood up for Su Lijing to disgust him, he really didn't need to say a few words. I don't have any heavy responsibilities and I can be sleepy whenever I want. You don't have to worry about me. As soon as he said this, many people in the hall looked at him with playful eyes. Sure enough, young people were hot-tempered. Wasn't the subtext of his words, "None of your business"? Not only was the official from the Ministry of Finance not angry, but his eyes lit up. Why don't I have to worry about you? I'm an elder, so it's natural for me to care about the younger generation. You're the pillar of our country, so you have to take care of yourself. Qin Guang's eyes gradually narrowed. Yes, that's right. According to age, many of the people in this hall are indeed my elders. I admit that I look young, but it doesn't feel right coming from your mouth, does it? Who the hell likes to recognize elders? It's natural for me to call those who are close to me uncle. But who do you think you are? I don't even remember your name and you have the cheek to call yourself an elder? Sorry, I'm not close to you. Qin Guang's face turned cold as he said indifferently, "So sir, please don't lecture me." Suddenly slapped in the face in front of everyone, this young man from the Ministry of Finance was caught off guard. He didn't expect this kid to be so irritable in this kind of situation. Do you even understand what kind of place this is? Who are these people you're talking to? Do you still want to walk this path in the future? Young people are still hot-tempered. If you can't keep your cool, how can you take on heavy responsibilities? Little Qin, your current identity is different from the past, and your position is also very sensitive. You have to be steady, otherwise, I'm afraid you're not suitable for such an important position. At this moment, a middle-aged man in military uniform stood up and interrupted. It seemed like he was one of the core members who knew Qin Guang's position, but he didn't seem to be on the same side as Jiang Yuanchao Wushan. Qin Guang looked at this person and rolled his eyes. Fine, you guys are taking turns to lecture me. Don't put on the airs of an elder in front of me. You just want to provoke me or vent your dissatisfaction with me. Otherwise, you just want me to lose my temper and leave the impression that I'm incompetent. Then you can go back and criticize me to the elders. You can replace me with someone you think you can rely on to be the director of the General Administration of Light. He was well aware of these people and started to get annoyed. It was true that he didn't want to go into politics from the beginning. It had only been a short time and he was already disgusted. Chao Jingming, it's not up to you and me to decide whether Qin Guang is suitable or not. The elders have their own considerations and this is the result of their discussion. It's not up to us to make irresponsible remarks. If you have any opinions, you can bring them up directly. Don't be sarcastic here and let people laugh at you for no reason. Jiang Yuanchao put on a straight face and defended Qin Guang. Chapter 654. Yuanchao, you seem to be in a bad temper recently. Why are your words so harsh? You're already angry? Did I say anything wrong? The military figure named Chao Jingming immediately turned his attention to Jiang Yuanchao, who spoke up for Qin Guang with a smile still on his face. Don't play games with me. I don't like it. Qin Guang, let's go. Jiang Yuanchao tried to pull Qin Guang but found that he couldn't move him. He seemed to be nailed to the ground, not moving an inch. Wu Shan covered his forehead. Damn, this kid's temper is coming back. Chao Jingming, on the other hand, felt that he had achieved his objective, so he continued with a smile. I'm just saying a few words. Those people are harder to deal with than us and Qin Guang's temper is going to cause trouble. The country's affairs can't be taken lightly, so isn't it only right for the old man to reconsider? Yuanchao, you're right. I'll talk to the elders later. Right, let's stop here. Don't throw a tantrum. We still have business to talk about later. There are still many details that we haven't settled on for the red-blue military drill in a few days. Qin Guang was really disgusted by this person. After saying all the ugly words, he turned around and talked about business with you. He didn't know what others thought of him, but he really couldn't stand it. Mr. Chao, great minds think alike. No bears think alike. I also feel that I'm not suitable. Otherwise, who do you think is more suitable to be the bureau chief? I'm really not interested in accompanying you. It's boring, disgusting, ugly and dirty. He finally broke free from Jiang Yuanchao's arm and said, Uncle Jiang, don't worry about me. You guys talk. I'm leaving. Seeing that Qin Guang still wanted to leave after cursing, Chao Jingming felt a little unhappy. The reason why the old patriarchs got Secretary Chu to bring Chen Guang over was to integrate him into their circle. If this matter were to spread out, others might even think that he was the one who forced Chen Guang to leave. Little Chen, what did I say to you just now? Where did your temper come from? Don't you have any respect for your teacher? I'm trying to reason things out with you for your own good. Yet you're throwing a tantrum and walking away at the slightest provocation. What is this? I'll pretend that I didn't hear you calling me a coward, and I'll tolerate you calling me disgusting, ugly and dirty. It's all because you're young, but don't go too far, right? Chao Jingming still had a very calm expression on his face, as if he was really letting Qin Guang have his way. In this way, if Qin Guang really left, no one would say anything wrong with him. Exactly. You have no respect for your elders. That person from the Ministry of Finance started to show off again. Qin Guang almost laughed out loud. Standing at the entrance of the small courtyard, he turned around to look at the group of people who were behaving like monsters and snakes. He then nodded at Jiang Yuanchao and Wu Shan and suddenly grinned. I say, everyone, don't you all feel tired living like this? You're always so secretive and deceitful. Just thinking about it makes my hair stand on end. I really can't live another day like you. You think you're surrounded by a treasure trove of feng shui and think that I have to stick to you wholeheartedly. But in my opinion, you, the two of you, stink to the heavens. The two of you have turned the entire courtyard into a cesspool. He pointed at Chao Jingming and that person from the Ministry of Finance and said straightforwardly. After that, he turned around and left without a moment's hesitation. Did he really not understand what his words and actions meant? No, of course he understood. If it was not a big deal, it could be said that he could bear with it for a while and it would not cost him anything. To him, this was not difficult at all because of his superb acting skills. But ever since he realized what the elders were thinking, he really did not want to stay here anymore. He never thought that he could be a politician. Today's experience in less than an hour made him even more certain of his thoughts. Yes, I can do my best to cooperate with you all and act better than all of you, but I don't want to. I'd rather die than live like this. His act of throwing a tantrum in front of everyone seemed childish and impulsive, but in fact he was deliberately throwing the difficult problem back to the elders. He was deliberately telling them, you guys better save it, I'm really not cut out for this. Alright, he was preparing to quit. This is just a small matter and you guys are already making me so disgusted that I can't even eat. If I have to deal with you all every day, won't I go crazy? A good sentence, but he could change it up in a variety of ways. If it was a simple matter, he would not talk to you properly, but he would sneakily pull out a small knife from his back and stab you in the ass while talking. Also, the same words that could be found in the Xinhua dictionary were combined to form a phrase in their mouths. When used by them, they all had different meanings and purposes. Qin Guang understood every word that Chao Jingming and the person from the finance department said. But it was precisely because he understood everything that he felt especially disgusted. So he really flipped the table and left. The old man was not going to play with you all anymore. It would be best if the elders really think that I'm not reliable. When Wenwen's matter is over, I can really quit. Otherwise, I won't even be able to resign and I won't even be able to cry. I can also scold people at the same time. The person I scolded just now should not be an ordinary person. For some reason, I feel a little smug and a little ripple in my heart. Later on, I can boast to Brother Bai Hua for 10 years. Even if I gave them 10,000 guts, they would not dare to do it. That's right. Chatting with them is called chatting. Chatting with these people is like fighting with bayonets. Every stab will see blood. It is boring and tiring. This guy. Chao Jingming's face was swept clean. Finally, he could not laugh anymore. His face was livid for a few seconds before he suddenly flung his sleeves and turned to leave. This was the first time he had been scolded so badly by a junior. But now he really could not do anything to Qin Guang, the director of the Guangdong General Administration. No matter how angry he was, it was useless. When he angrily returned to his own people, he finally could not control his temper and said angrily, "This little bastard really doesn't know any etiquette. I really don't know what the elders are thinking. How can they let this kind of person sit in that position?" The person next to him came up and asked, "Brother Chao, what position is it?" Chao Jingming looked at him angrily. "Don't ask what you're not supposed to ask." Fine. But no matter what, he is too favored. If the elders spoil him like this, there will be problems. Isn't that right? How old is he? He is always doing things on the internet and his personal life is not clean either. He doesn't even know that the Jin family's elder. Sure. You can't talk about this. You can't mention it. It will cause a commotion. Fine, let's not talk about it. Anyway, I don't think he is qualified to come to our meeting today. Even young Master Bai is not here, is he? Chao Jingming looked at the group of people talking and gradually felt comfortable. He thought to himself, when the time is right, I will find a way to get him out. That position is too important. If it is not handled well, there will be a river of blood. To deal with an inner force martial artist, one must be smooth and slick. No matter what, it is not a hothead like Qin Guang who throws a tantrum. As for the possibility that Qin Guang might bear a grudge against him, Chao Jingming did not care. He was not a pushover. If he did not fight for these things, then what was the point of fighting for them? That was an important position to replace in the Special Affairs Bureau. Whoever was in power would be able to influence the political situation in the future. It was so important that it was worth a gamble. On the other hand, Wu Shan and Jiang Yuanchao were talking in a low voice in a corner. They were not as troubled as Qin Guang had imagined. Both of them looked calm, but there was a hint of joy in their whispers. This kid is really smart, Jiang Yuanchao said. Wu Shan nodded. Indeed. In an instant he made a prompt decision and saw through the core of the problem. His brain works really fast. If my youngest son had 1/10 of his ability, I wouldn't have such a headache. That daughter of mine, Sai, let's not talk about her. What's wrong? Jiang Yuanchao asked curiously. Wu Shan shook his head. Let's not talk about my daughter. Qin Guang might seem to be behaving arrogantly today, leaving the impression that he's a hothead. If it wasn't for me personally witnessing how he flipped Su Lijing upside down and how he forced Su Lijing into a dead end with just a few words, I would have nearly been fooled by him as well. With just a few words he drew a clear line between Chao Jingming and those people in the finance department the first time we met. He also left us behind on the surface, but in fact he was secretly on our side. What an amazing kid. The younger generation will surpass us in time. He will definitely become a great person. Jiang Yuanchao concluded. Wu Shan shook his head slightly. No, he is already a great person. In fact, if Wu Tong was here, she might have blushed at Wu Shan's words because she knew that Qin Guang was a great person. She did not know if he was a great person, but she was sure that he was a great person. When Qin Guang went out, he bumped into Secretary Chu, who seemed to be taking a stroll outside and waiting for instructions. Hey Xiaochen, why are you out so soon? Qin Guang waved his hand in distress. I can't stay here anymore. This is such a lousy place. I can't even talk to people in circles. So annoying. Why? You don't like it? Secretary Chu smiled as he sized him up. Qin Guang nodded. Not only do I not like it, I hate it. Oh right, Uncle Chu, tomorrow is the military drill, right? Can you arrange a place for me to rest? I need to find a place to hide myself. These things in the industry are really not my forte. Secretary Chu nodded. Sure. Oh right, Bai Hua and Lin Jingwei are having dinner together tonight. Do you want to go? Qin Guang was amused. It's good. I should chat with them. It's disgusting. After he agreed, he felt a little regretful. Bai Hua wouldn't be so bored as to mention Qin Yu every time they met, right? It shouldn't be that boring, right? Qin Guang, when are you going to fulfill the promise you made last time? F***ck, this guy is really that bored. Sitting at the dining table, Qin Guang looked at Bai Hua bitterly. That's right. He didn't know when it started, but he was sitting in the middle with Lin Jingwei and Bai Hua on his left and right. Xiao Linzi also poked her head over. Brother Guang, you are now CEO Qin, the CEO of such a big company. You have to keep your word. Qin Guang silently turned his head. He felt that his grandson's smile was really cheap and meaningful. But in the end he wasn't good enough to completely read a person's mind. Although there were thousands of doubts in his heart, he still didn't know what Lin Jingwei was showing off about. Qin Guang put down his chopsticks and sighed. Brother Bai Hua, it's not that I want to scold you. Oh yeah, I know. Don't worry, I was just joking with you. I know you are a man of your word. Don't worry, I'm not worried at all. If this has caused you trouble, I apologize. Bai Hua interrupted Qin Guang. Qin Guang's mouth was wide open. He wanted to strangle this guy to death. After 3 rounds of drinking, Shen Yuliang, who hadn't dared to come up to the dining table to talk, finally mustered the courage to come up to him. Holding a glass, he cautiously said, "Brother Qinguang, do you want a drink?" Qinguang looked up at this guy. Although last time wasn't very pleasant, it wasn't a big deal. Someone had taken the initiative to express goodwill, and if he didn't accept it, he would seem too narrow-minded. Fine, I'm narrow-minded. But today I'll be generous and give Xin Yuliang a chance. He picked up his glass, stood up and clinked it with Xin Yuliang. Then he quickly tilted his head back and downed it. "You're too polite. I'll drink first as a sign of respect." Xin Yuliang was overjoyed and followed suit. The other people at the table who had been secretly paying attention to the two of them secretly heaved a sigh of relief. In fact, as long as they talked to him nicely, he was really easier to deal with than they had imagined. Xin Yuliang silently turned his face away and wiped the tears from the corner of his eyes. In fact, he had almost been ostracized these days. It had been really hard for him. Originally, he didn't have a place at the table, but Lin Jingwei had called him, so he dared to come. Now that they had finally buried the hatchet, he could be considered to have crossed this hurdle. "Brother Qinguang, I'm actually also a fan of the Almighty Superman, and I also play Dota Tower. You have more than 4,000 points in the stairway competition. I watched the whole process of your previous competition and it really made my eyes brim with tears." "Another glass?" "No problem. Let's queue together when we're free. I'll bring you along to show off and fly." Qinguang found Xin Yuliang much more pleasing to the eye. People who could like Dota Tower couldn't be that bad. Alright, those who liked to play Dota Tower were also good people. The two of them drank another glass. "I won't find excuses for this last glass. This is my self-punishment. Brother Qinguang, I'm sorry. What happened before was my fault." Just as Qinguang finished drinking, Xin Yuliang on the other side quickly poured himself a third glass. This time it was in place, really in place. "It's okay. Let bygones be bygones. I'll drink a glass too." Although Xin Yuliang was punishing himself, Qinguang didn't make things difficult for him and drank a third glass. Actually, as long as others gave him face, he didn't even need to lower his voice. Everyone could be like that and talk nicely. Qinguang wasn't a hedgehog with all its hair standing on end. He also didn't like to cause trouble or make enemies. Now that they had met and smiled and 3 glasses of wine to resolve their grudges, it could also be considered as putting an end to the previous mess. Xin Yuliang was able to appear at this table because he had grown up with Lin Jingwei and Bai Hua. It was just that he thought too highly of himself previously, and the jealousy in his brain couldn't be turned around, so he caused some trouble. The atmosphere at the table eased up and instantly became lively. Everyone drank with each other and there was no longer any ill feelings or tension. As the wine immortal of the Sea of Moments, Qinguang naturally didn't reject anyone. "With just you bunch of small fries you want to defeat me? You think I can't drink you to death?" In the end, this table of wine really helped him negotiate a lot of big things. Chapter 655. Xin Yuliang was one of the major shareholders behind the scenes, and he was trying to mend their relationship. Qinguang was China's #1 internet celebrity, and he used to be a chauffeur for the popular internet company. He had thousands of orders and he wasn't just putting on an act. He was actually driving a sports car himself. If the internet company needed to find a spokesperson, there was no better candidate than Qinguang. Now that the internet company had just acquired a competitor, it was in the limelight. Xin Yuliang wanted to take advantage of the situation, and it was just right to invite a heavyweight spokesperson. When it was about time, Xin Yuliang used the alcohol to boost his courage and suggested to invite Qinguang to be the spokesperson for the leading internet company in the country. Qinguang didn't even hear the endorsement fee that Xin Yuliang threw at him, and he immediately agreed. It wasn't a big deal anyway. Now that the two of them had taken the lead, the rest followed suit. Qinguang couldn't remember how many endorsement contracts he had agreed to today. Anyway, he only had one request, and that was not to do too many things. He could use the rights to his portrait, but he had to make sure he looked handsome. That's it. It wasn't that he couldn't shoot a commercial, but it couldn't be too troublesome. The female lead also had to be. Considering that Jin Shuiwei was also in the industry, he stopped himself. Anyway, don't make me run all over the place. Do whatever you can to save me trouble. Everything else is negotiable. He wasn't worried that these people would cheat him on the endorsement fee. They wouldn't dare to. They were all in the same industry now and they would see each other all the time. There was no need for them to fight over money. Today they had taken the initiative to bring it up a step further. There was no need to be so hesitant when it came to matters of mutual consent. Although everyone was a little tipsy, everyone's mind was as clear as snow. In the end, even Bai Hua was a little eager. He pulled Lin Jingwei and asked, "Jingwei, what do you think Tianjin Energy needs to endorse?" Lin Jingwei rolled his eyes. "You can try to get him to endorse your newly developed solar energy generator set." "Yes, that's right. It's the one with the highest conversion rate in the world. This endorsement is guaranteed to be effective. Brother Guang also has the word light in his name. It's so fitting." In the end, Bai Hua endured it, afraid that he would make a fool of himself. While Qin Guang was happily eating and drinking at the table, his 3 right-hand men of Tianguang brokerage were sitting in a hotel room frowning. "Boss Chen's mission is so difficult. I have no clue." Fong Tianyu lit another cigarette. This was the second pack of cigarettes he had ordered tonight. Yu Hong's eyebrows were also tightly knitted together. He did not smoke, and Fong Tianyu's second-hand smoke made him dizzy. The direction that Boss Chen mentioned is indeed a bit too broad. As for how to implement it specifically, I really can't think of it. Pencil sharpening, microcarving, how were they going to promote it? Besides, who would be interested in sharpening pencils? I can't even find a clue to promote it. It's not easy to find someone to hype it up. Even if the major media picked up on the news, it would be useless. We can't possibly get someone to print flyers saying that the almighty Superman Qin Guang is the best sharpener in the world and distribute it everywhere. Lu Xiaoyang was wearing a mask and sunglasses. He could not help it. He was also suffering from the smoke. "Damn old you. Why are you crying?" Fong Tianyu was also shocked. He reached out his hand and patted Yu Hong's shoulder. "Old you, don't be sad. Let's think of a way together." Coincidentally, the finger that Fong Tianyu extended was the finger that was holding the cigarette. Yu Hong's tears flowed down. Crying. He really cried. A super professional was actually troubled by Boss Chen's order. This was a tragedy. "Old Fong, can you extinguish your cigarette? If you continue to smoke me for a while, not only will I cry, I will also go blind." Yu Hong had endured for a whole night and finally said this. Only then did Fong Tianyu react, and he quickly stubbed out his cigarette. "Sai, what should we do? Why don't I try to find some people to send out some hydrology spear scripts?" After Fong Tianyu cleaned up, Lu Xiaoyang said, "It's not that it's impossible, but I always feel that this doesn't seem to be of any substantial help to the development of the company." Yu Hong sighed. Fong Tianyu sighed as well. "Chief Tang has really given us a big problem. How are we going to help Chief Chen get this company up?" Sai. Pa. He lit another cigarette. Lu Xiaoyang picked up his teacup and took a sip. A stream of tea shot out from his mouth and extinguished Fong Tianyu's cigarette. "Old Fong, old you is going blind. Buttface, you little b asterisk teach," Fong Tianyu muttered to himself. "F asterisk C. How do you know my name is Buttface?" "Chief Chen said so." Yu Hong added, "He spoke to me in English just now. President Chen's spoken English is really good. His pronunciation is perfect, his pronunciation is clear, and his thinking is quick. He said your English name is Three Dog Boy." Lu Xiaoyang, "Sigh, I entrusted this to the wrong person." The 3 of them started to feel melancholy again. They really didn't know where the hope in life lay. On the other hand, Qin Guang had a comfortable meal. All the injuries he suffered in the dilapidated courtyard in the afternoon were healed. When the banquet finally ended, it was around 10 p.m. Lin Jingwei wanted to ask Qin Guang to stay at his house, but Qin Guang had to go to the military exercise with a group of people the next morning. Lin Jingwei wasn't qualified to attend, so Qin Guang took a private car back. Lin Jingwei laughed at him. "You're flying faster than me driving a direct train." Qin Guang patted his shoulder. "Save it. Can't you see that I'm having a headache now?" "Actually, I can see it. Otherwise, why do you think I went to the 5 capitals to study? Isn't it because I want to hide further away?" Qin Guang sighed. "We're all in the same boat." Lin Jingwei also sighed. "That's why we became gay friends in this life." Scram. When Qin Guang stayed in the Xishan guest house arranged by Secretary Chu, Qin Guang sobered up a little. He started to take out the business cards he just received and threw them on the bed. Then he called Lu Xiaoyang. Compared to Yu Hong and the rest that Tang Xiaokai sent over, Qin Guang trusted Lu Xiaoyang more. Although he hadn't interacted with Lu Xiaoyang for a long time, they've watched a film together. With Chen Guang's confidence in acting, he could tell that Lu Xiaoyang was a reliable person despite coming from 8 Weekly. Wait, everyone. Chief Chen is calling me. Don't tell me there's a new order at this time? Lu Xiaoyang stood up from his chair, pulled off his mask and said excitedly. Yu Hong and Fong Tianyu looked up at him and let out a long sigh. Chief Chen is finally enlightened. He also knows that this matter is not reliable, right? That's right. It's good to know one's mistakes and correct them. Chief Chen is talented. Although he was a little young and his train of thought was a little too wild, extraordinary people did extraordinary things. Just when everyone was at their wits' end, he used an unknown method to make Lu Chao submit to him. He sold 8 copies of the magazine for $1 and finally averted a great crisis. From the looks of it, he was indeed a talented general. Lu Xiaoyang answered the phone. Chief Chen, what can I do for you? It was past 11 o'clock at night, which was quite late. A call at this time must be an important decision. Yu Hong and Fong Tianyu held their breaths and hoped that he would take back his decision. Qin Guang shook his head and picked up a business card. Then he said, Buttface, do you have a pen and paper with you? I'll read out a name and you write down a name and phone number. Tomorrow people from these companies will contact you one after another. Then you 3 can discuss and communicate with each other. Do it properly for me. Lu Xiaoyang was surprised. What's the matter? Many companies? Qin Guang replied, yes, endorsement contracts with many companies. Endorsement contracts? Chief Chen, didn't you say that you wouldn't accept them? Lu Xiaoyang repeated deliberately and then looked at the other 2 with a sad face. The other 2 shook their heads and sighed. Bless. There is no end to the hard times. Qin Guang smiled. I don't want to trouble you and I don't want you to run back and forth just to sign a contract, right? Look at other endorsers who always work for other people's commercial activities and shoot an advertisement for me. Isn't it troublesome? But this time is different. They are all my friends and we are helping each other. It's like giving money to me. I don't have to do anything. Anyway, you don't need to care about the price when you negotiate with others. You just need to figure out the procedure and communicate with each other. Sign the contracts if they don't do anything stupid. Okay. Comrade Xiaolu didn't expect what kind of fright he would receive later. He thought that the so-called friend Qin Guang was referring to was probably some second-generation rich second-generation boss of a small rundown company who would casually make a decision for him. Then I'll start reading the names. Okay, Chief Chen. I've prepared the pen and paper. Online company. What? The first name made Lu Xiaoyang dizzy. He exclaimed in surprise. Of course, he knew about this online company, which had just merged with the leading car-hailing company from the United States. It was the new domestic giant of online car-hailing. It had more than 90% of the national market share and was valued at more than $40 billion. How could such a big company be a small one? Yu Hong and Fong Tianyu, who were watching Lu Xiaoyang make the phone call, felt very uncomfortable. Isn't it an endorsement contract? Buttface, do you have to be like this? Can't you just let us watch you make the phone call? What the F***ck? Don't you know about online? The phone number is... Qin Guang ignored him. He just wanted to quickly finish talking about this so he could sleep. He had drunk a little too much. Tomorrow morning he had to rush to some unknown military base. He had to sleep early. Okay, Chief Chen, please continue. 386 Heavy Industries. That's right. It's the 386 Heavy Industries that you know. They have a new product. What is it called? It's a handheld pile driver. They want me to endorse it. 386 Heavy Industries was one of the leading companies in the country. It was rumored that it had a very powerful background. Lu Xiaoyang felt that his brain was going to freeze. Chief Chen, did you eat chicken blood today? Where the hell did you get these contracts from? What did you tell them? How much blood and tears did you have to pay to get in touch with the people in charge of these companies? By the way, why did you, an internet celebrity, endorse a pile driver? Forget it. Don't worry about the details. Old you and old Fong, don't ask me why I am kneeling on the floor to answer the phone. Finally, after a few minutes, Qin Guang finished reading all the business cards. As for the endorsement amount, he really didn't remember it. There were more than 20 people at the table, and more than 10 of them had come together to talk about this and that. There were too many numbers. Besides, he had drunk a lot, so it would be strange for him to remember. On the other side, Yu Hong and Fang Tianyu couldn't sit still anymore. Lu Xiaoyang was kneeling by the tea table, writing the company name and the contact number of the person in charge. Does this mean that Chief Qin has signed more than 10 endorsement contracts from this morning to this afternoon? And all of them are these companies? Fang Tianyu couldn't believe it. Yu Hong wasn't much better. It wasn't that he hadn't seen geniuses doing business before. After all, he had been with Tang Xiaokai for many years. Tang Xiaokai could also be regarded as a representative of the young talents who had risen at the speed of light in recent years. He was also quite famous in the world. But Yu Hong really hadn't seen anyone who could run a company like Qin Guang. He was completely unreasonable and had no tricks at all. Obviously, everyone was disheartened at the beginning and didn't know if they could survive tomorrow. In the end, he turned around and slapped himself in the face. He had done such a mass endorsement thing. What kind of companies were these? What kind of endorsements? Thinking about the second-tier shampoo, third-tier keyboard and mouse, third-tier laptop. Oh yes, and the red cucumber mobile phone, which was the kind of popular endorsement model of the 1,000 yuan mobile phone. It was on a completely different level from Chief Chen's, okay? All of them were the giants of the industry. Online taxi booking, alright, let's not talk about this. I heard that Chief Chen used to run an online taxi. It was very suitable and tailor-made. The pile driver of the 386 heavy industry started to make trouble. The facial mask of the luxury skin care brand of Tiange Dream Group. What? The electronically synthesized voice of AED? He remembered that when he was driving in the future, Qin Guang's voice would be heard from the GPS. Turn left at the intersection ahead. Turn left, turn left, turn left again. Hello, dear driver, I was just talking nonsense. Come and hit me. Yu Hong threw this scary thought out. What drove him crazy was that there was a fashion brand that even had Qin Guang as their spokesperson. If he didn't remember incorrectly, that brand specialized in the market of young girls, and most of their clothing was for young girls. So they're getting their Mr. Qin to be their spokesperson. Although you are also the industry leader, isn't your taste a little too heavy? With the above comparison, this investment company that mainly focused on the hotel business was too harmonious. Everyone, what should we do about this? Should we accept all the contracts that Chief Qin asked us to accept? Lu Xiaoyang asked anxiously. Yu Hong and Fang Tianyu looked at each other. Since these were all endorsement contracts arranged by Chief Qin, how could they not accept them? Accept all of them. Of course, the three of them quickly understood on the second day that they had no reason to reject these contracts. Qin Guang had asked them to squander money. But only one day had passed and they had not spent a single cent, but they had earned a whole basket of endorsement contracts. Yet these people's asking prices were so high that it was impossible to reject them. Yu Hong felt that Qin Guang could even accept the 20 million a year contract, let alone the clothes for young girls. Even if it was baby diapers, he would accept it. Also, the other party was really enthusiastic, okay? He was still in the middle of negotiating the contracts, and the other companies actually came to him on their own. The ones who came were all the CEOs, and not just in name only. Although these CEOs were very young, they seemed to have a lot of say in their respective companies. If they said they wanted to, they would do it without any hesitation. In one morning, a total of 12 contracts were negotiated. All the endorsement fees added up to 150 million a year. On average, each of them earned more than 10 million a year. Looking at the conditions of these people, how was this AF** King endorsement? This was obviously giving away money, okay? Our Chief Qin was just an internet celebrity, not a world-renowned Oscar winner. At noon, the three of them walked out of the company's headquarters and looked at each other. Their worldview was still collapsing. I'm starting to doubt my life, Lu Xiaoyang said. Yu Hong nodded. Maybe we can't keep up with Chief Chen's pace and thinking. Fang Tianyu felt very sad. He had not even warmed his position as the marketing manager, and he had not even understood the situation, but Chief Chen had already done all his work. Even Tang Xiaokai, who was far away overseas, could not sit still, let alone the three of them. He had taken out the money from the investment in Tianguang Brokerage Company. He had only followed the instructions from the higher-ups to let Qin Guang squander as much as he wanted. Why was the money getting squandered so much? However, Tang Xiaokai was not someone who did not know what was good for him. It belonged to whoever it belonged to. Although Tianguang Brokerage Company had 50% of his shares, the endorsement fees were all negotiated by Qin Guang himself. To put it bluntly, even without Tianguang brokerage, the money would still be in Qin Guang's pocket. Although Tang Xiaokai did things in a Westerner's way overseas, he was also proficient in the ways of the world in China. This money could not be transferred into the company's account with a clear conscience, and half of it was out of thin air. Tang Xiaokai did not lack this bit of money. More importantly, even if Qin Guang did not say that he did not care, he would not take advantage of this. Tianguang Brokerage Company was a task assigned by the higher-ups. If he really relied on this to earn money, it would be too troublesome. Yu Hong, you have to remember that you are now under Tianguang Brokerage Company. You have to be responsible for all the shareholders of Tianguang Brokerage Company, and you are no longer a subordinate of my Tang Jie Foundation. You know how to handle this matter, right? I will send someone from the Tang Jie Foundation over. If Qin Guang has no other arrangements for this endorsement fee, treat it as financing into the company. The shares will fluctuate according to the changes in the funds. In short, you must make Qin Guang satisfied and approve of it. Tang Xiaokai instructed. Yu Hong was clear. Actually, when Qin Guang chose to call Lu Xiaoyang first to tell him about this matter, he understood everything. Even until now, he had not understood Qin Guang's style of doing things, nor did he know what Tianguang Brokerage Company would be like in the future. However, Yu Hong felt that it was time for him to have a clear position in his heart. Alright, not to mention anything else, just based on his terrifying ability to earn money. This company still had to be run. Qin Guang did not have the time to care about the matters outside. After hiding for many days, the individual military exercise that the old men had been secretly preparing for finally began on this day. It was very abrupt and many people did not even have the time to react. They might have been summoned to Beijing for various reasons and were supposed to attend this or that important meeting today. However, when they opened their eyes, they received this sudden news. They were startled and sleepy. After a simple tidying up, they sat in the special car that came to pick them up. The location of the individual military exercise this time was not Shun's special training camp, but a top-secret base that was about 100 kilometers north of Beijing. Around morning, from the West Mountain Villa district of Beijing to the base, more than 100 kilometers of the road was completely cordoned off. The long motorcade drove out of Beijing in the morning fog, and the air was filled with a cold and murderous aura. The car that Qin Guang was sitting in was about in the middle of the motorcade. In front of him were the cars of those old men, and in the motorcade were the current leaders of the major provinces in the country. Qin Guang even vaguely saw Secretary Ma of the Dachuan province squeezing into the crowd and climbing into a minibus behind him. In a sense, the seat he was sitting in was more important than Secretary Ma's seat, which made him feel like he was sitting on pins and needles. Some of the internal strength martial artists who had received the news in advance, after careful consideration, decided to stand up and participate in this exercise, while some declined politely and preferred to continue hiding in the dark. At this time there were benefits to standing up. Once the old men finally won and gained the upper hand, they could participate in this military exercise as defectors. Needless to say, the benefits in the future would be obvious. However, if they lost, it might be difficult for them to establish a foothold in Jianghu. If they didn't stand up, the benefits in the future might be less, but they would not be wiped out. Of course, the other people who had received invitations only to see this country, the new weapon that was the pinnacle of this era. In reality, the sects that were going to be beaten down had sent people over. No one wanted to die without knowing why. More or less, someone had to be sent over to see what the new weapon that could make those old men so courageous looked like. Next, whether they should repeat what they had done before and use the high and mighty methods that they were so proud of to beat the tiger in the mountain, or put away their former arrogance and lower their noble heads, they had to think carefully. The inheritance of the sects was very important. Unless it was absolutely necessary, no one was willing to fight to the death. Of course, there would definitely be people who had secretly defected and reached an agreement, but on the surface, they were still mixed in with the other forces that had been invited to watch the ceremony, witnessing the current leaders flaunting their power and being beaten down together with the others. Between you and me, who was a friend and who was a foe, it all depended on a single thought. Now, everyone was most curious and concerned about who the representatives of the 3 aristocratic families, 8 sects and 27 sects in the Jianghu would send, and how these people would express their stance. Now the conflict between the Wen family, Poison sect and Dark sect had completely erupted. It was said that the Wen family's sect leader would be there personally. If Poison Sect and Dark Sect came as well, who knew what would happen when the two forces met? Why? Did Ouyang Tianxing say that he's not coming? In the car in the middle, an old man mumbled softly. This guy is too powerful. Does he think that we can't do anything to him if he doesn't come? Jiang Yage's grandfather said angrily. However, old Master Jin shook his head slightly. If it were me, I wouldn't come either. Indeed. Ouyang Tianxing has been the director of the Special Affairs Bureau for many years. He knows how we do things. He knows that since we're going to expose this matter, we must have a plan. At the very least, we have the determination and ability to perish together. He definitely won't dare to come. The old man in the middle had a penetrating gleam in his eyes. What about now? Another old man asked. It doesn't matter if he comes or not. As long as everything goes according to plan for today's military exercise, we'll immediately start cutting the Special Affairs Bureau and make Ouyang Tianxing report to the capital. We have to spread the word that it's up to him whether he comes or not, and which side he'll lean towards. He's getting cocky at the wrong time and he wants to be promoted. What a fool's dream. No, he's not being cocky. He's always been like this. It's our wishful thinking. Driving the wolf to devour the tiger is ultimately our wishful thinking. The wolf, the tiger, and the leopard are of the same origin. Only by strengthening ourselves is the foundation of a country. We're already strong enough now. However, we have to be prepared. Cornered dogs will always bite off a few pieces of meat from old bones like us. The old man's words were filled with determination. Let's do it. I, Old Jiang, am not afraid of anyone. That's right. I may be old, but I dare to go into battle with my sword. Old leaders, I, Old Tan, am a messenger, Tan Zhaohua said weakly. F***CKU. Chapter 656. By the time Qin Guang alighted from the car, the atmosphere was a little tense. Jiang Yuanchao, whom he had met the day before, had been holding Qin Guang's arm the whole time. Amongst the crowd, Qin Guang saw a few people that he met yesterday, such as Chao Shiming and a few others. However, it was a pity that he didn't see Wu Shan. It seemed that Wu Shan's rank wasn't high enough to participate in today's drill. That Uncle Jiang Jin Shiyue's father? Qin Guang asked in a small voice. Jiang Yuanchao chuckled. You are afraid of meeting your father-in-law? Do you even have times when you are afraid? Aren't you always fearless? Qin Guang quickly shook his head. Oh no, I am very timid. Alright, don't worry. Old Jin is overseas on a state visit and won't be back for a while. You won't be able to see him today. Qin Guang heaved a sigh of relief. Thank goodness, thank goodness. Seeing him like this, Jiang Yuanchao was excited again. Wilchen. Uncle Jiang. What do you think of Uncle Jiang? Do you feel like old friends at first sight? Jiang Yuanchao chuckled, rubbing his big bald head as he spoke. Qin Guang also rubbed his head. I do feel like old friends at first sight. Both of us are very bright. You must have interacted with the Jin family many times. Do you think they are all boring? They are very rigid. Although they are very friendly with you, they have to be polite to you on the surface. That's not fun at all. Look at my Jiang family, they are not like that. My daughter has also learned to be like us. How about it? Reconsider? Solomon is more suitable for you than Shiyue. Qin Guang's eyes widened. Uncle Jiang, you and your father are really the same. Both of you learned your poaching skills from the same source. Also, I really can't tell you that Jiang Yage and I are much more advanced than Jin Shiyue. You really don't need to poach me. I'm with Jiang Yage right now. However, the conversation between the two did not last long. The group entered the base and headed straight for the building. Before the military exercise officially began, there would be a mobilization meeting. The elders would probably reveal their trump cards at the mobilization meeting. Sitting in the massive conference room, Qin Guang sighed in his heart as he watched people of all shapes and sizes coming in one after another. They were all led by the staff to their seats. Qin Guang couldn't help but sigh in his heart that all sorts of people were here. Compared to most of the people present, Qin Guang was already one of the people who had a good understanding of inner strength martial artists. But today he still learned a lot. Among the people who walked in, there was an old man dressed like a Daoist priest, a gloomy man who was missing an arm or a leg, and a beautiful woman wearing a floral dress who looked young but was addressed as Granny. In the crowd, a nun holding a sword and a beautiful middle-aged woman in a flowery dress secretly glanced at Qin Guang from time to time. Qin Guang did not pay much attention to them. Instead, he tried to raise his head and remember every strange person he saw today. Is that Qin Guang? The beautiful middle-aged woman sat in the crowd and asked the nun beside her. Yes, it's him. The nun sneered. He looks like a young talent, but it's a little strange. His root bone is very strange. I don't know if it's because I'm too far away or if I'm wrong. The beautiful middle-aged woman squinted her eyes, trying to see through Qin Guang in the distance, but she felt that he was unfathomable and unpredictable. You don't have to look. His root bone is very strange. My disciple once told me that the strange appearance of his body is rare in 100 years, no, maybe 1,000 years. It's not something that you and I can figure out. The voice of the nun holding the sword revealed a trace of helplessness and unwillingness, but perhaps a little complacent. So powerful? Even more powerful than the girl from the Wen family? The beautiful middle-aged woman exclaimed. That's not necessarily true. Who would have thought that the girl from the Wen family could reach the level of Wenzong so quickly? Root bone is only one of the talents, but the power of understanding is also indispensable. The nun holding the sword had thought it through. Just like our disciples, their root bone and power of understanding are the best. Otherwise, how could they reach the peak of bone force at such a young age? That's right. It's the fortune of the Thousand Flowers Valley and the Thousand Despair sect to have Xiao Miao and Xiao Qin. But I hope we don't make a wrong decision this time. If we don't give it our all, that Mr. Ing will come to us sooner or later. By then we won't have any other choice. Qin Guang could not see through these people's internal force cultivation. He could only judge their strength from the aura they exuded when they walked. Well, he was just guessing. Most of them were not as powerful as Xianxia and Wu Miaowan, but there were some who were more powerful than the two Lolas. These are all powerful people. Jiang Yuanchao said with a sigh, gritting his teeth. Qin Guang was puzzled. Uncle Jiang, you seem to hate them a lot? Jiang Yuanchao shook his head, then nodded. I don't like them very much. You know about the incident back then, right? Many people saw the marks left behind by these powerful people in their dreams. They were so shocked that they broke out in cold sweat. Qin Guang nodded. I know. My father and I became bald because of them. At that time I was still young, and when I woke up my hair was gone. I don't know what kind of potion I gave someone, but in short my hair never grew back. So that's the reason? But I think it's pretty good now. Aren't you bald too? Don't you think that every morning when you wake up, others have to scrub their hair with shampoo while you wash your face with a handkerchief and wash your hair clean? It's very comfortable. It saves time and energy. There's some truth to it. So, fortune follows misfortune and misfortune hides blessings. Nothing in this world is absolute. From now on we, grandpa and grandchild, shall happily go bald together. I heard that you have a fan club that is also made up of bald people. I have a good impression of them. You should introduce them to them when you have time. Qin Guang was impressed by Jiang Yuanchao's twisted logic in life. Besides, he even dragged himself into it. Who wants to be with you, grandchild and grandchild, for 3 lifetimes? Oh right, I heard that a big shot among the inner force martial artists will be coming today. Why haven't I seen him yet? Qin Guang shrugged. How would I know? Aren't you on good terms with him? Why didn't he inform you in advance? How do you all know that I'm on good terms with Wenwen? This is a core secret, an important piece of information. When your Guangding General Headquarters grows and things settle down, we have to make a solemn promise to all the major sects that we will not easily use the big killing weapon on their young masters. Especially if the young master is a female, they have to sign it. Oh, that's not right. Then why did you drag Jiang Yage into this? I'm pushing my daughter into a pit of fire. Only Solomon can suppress the evil spirit in you. You don't understand. Our family is born to sacrifice ourselves for the country and the people to help us. All right, you win. Sai, why isn't the Wen clan leader here yet? If she doesn't come today, we won't be able to handle today's matter properly. You should give her a call and ask. I'm really worried. As the two chatted, Old Man Tan walked over. Qin Guang, give the Wen clan leader a call. We won't feel at ease if we don't have a plan. Seeing their sincere expressions, Qin Guang had no choice but to take out his phone. Then I'll call? Yes. While Qin Guang was making the call, Old Man Tan and Jiang Yuanchao were chatting. I heard that although the Wen clan leader is young, she's already a grandmaster. She's been famous for a long time, but I've never seen her in person. I really want to know how powerful she is. Tan Zhaohua sighed. Jiang Yuanchao pinched his beard. She must have amazing martial arts skills. When she appears, all the martial artists have to bow their heads in submission. Or maybe she's walking on the leaves, rushing here from nowhere, kicking up sand and pebbles along the way. That's right. An expert naturally has the power of an expert. I heard before that the Wen clan leader is now a Wenzong. In the entire pugilistic world, she's at least one of the top few. Plus, she's so young, so she must be quite domineering. On the other side, Qin Guang had finished his call. He looked at the two men in silence. Gentlemen, Wenwen said she was stuck in a traffic jam. The roads were closed when we left the city, so many cars were stuck on the road. She left a little late and couldn't move. A grandmaster can be stuck in a traffic jam? Jiang Yuanchao and Tan Zhaohua were both dumbfounded. What else can she do? Grandmasters are also human, okay? Grandmasters can widen the road with their fists, right? Although they knew what he said made sense, the two men still felt like they were being cheated. Forget it, let's leave it at that. Since she promised to come today, she won't go back on her word. There's no point in us panicking. Qin Guang, get ready. We might need you to give a speech later. We've decided to announce the matter of the Guangding General Bureau today. Before Tan Zhaohua left, he dropped such a heavy bomb. Hearing those words, Qin Guang trembled in anger. What's wrong with the brains of you bunch of old men? It's such an important matter that you come up with it so easily. Why is it so tiring to do something for you? Look at the hundreds of people sitting in the hall. Which one of them isn't a big shot? Which one of them isn't in power? Which one of them isn't a well-known figure in the internal force community? You didn't even inform me in advance, didn't discuss it with me, and now you want me to give a speech? And announce the Guangding General Bureau in public? What a scam. Moreover, you should at least give me some time to prepare my speech. What if I get stuck on the stage? Wouldn't that be shameful to his grandmother's house? Even if I'm a genius, it's still very strenuous for me to suddenly be forced to do something beyond my capabilities. Little Chen, don't worry about it. How can you have everything under control when it comes to family and national affairs? Since Uncle Tan said it was a last-minute decision, then it must be what they said. They must have thought it through. Didn't we agree to do this secretly? You can carry me out after the special case department is more or less a figurehead. There's no such thing as an impenetrable wall in the world. Jiang Yuanchao sighed. Qin Guang understood immediately. The Special Affairs Bureau must have gotten wind of the leak and started to fight back. If the person in power wanted to deal with an ordinary citizen, he might not even know how he died when he was lying in his coffin. But now he had to deal with the Special Affairs Bureau. This was a huge organization that had been operating for more than a decade. It had extended its reach to all aspects of society, and its influence was spread across martial artists and ordinary people. It was too difficult to do it without anyone noticing. So the old men decided to throw the Guangding General Bureau out now so that the martial artists in the audience have no choice but to take sides today? That should be it. That's why talents are so rare. It's precisely because not everything can be changed according to the will of the higher-ups that they need people like you to adapt to the situation. I have high hopes for you. Jiang Yuanchao patted Qin Guang's shoulder calmly. Qin Guang's face turned green. I have high hopes for your daughter. Since it was a meeting, it was necessary to speak to convey the spirit of the meeting. However, the speaker today was different from the rest. At least, in the hearts of ordinary people, this old man had not appeared in public for almost 20 years. However, he still looked hale and hearty at the moment. His words carried enormous weight. As long as he stood there, no one dared to belittle a word he said, even though he might not be able to truss a chicken due to his advanced age. Even if he was no longer in his position and did not seek for his position, his power had never dissipated. The young people sitting in the front row were all bound by an invisible thread and held in the hands of the old man. He spoke very slowly, but his words were clear. It was not a long speech. In less than an hour he had described the biggest change in the country in the past 20 to 30 years. He did not use too many sharp words, nor did he deliberately promote military force. He only used one picture after another and his calm narration to make everyone sitting below the stage understand one thing. Today's Wuxia was no longer the weak Wuxia of 30 years ago. The pace of technology was unstoppable. Manpower was limited but science was endless. The emergence of the steam engine was not enough to pose a threat to martial artists. During World War I, crudely made tanks, guns, propeller planes, and mortars that relied on simple aiming devices were also not enough to pose a threat to martial artists. All the weapons from World War II to 30 years ago, although the development speed seemed to be rapid, even large-scale weapons such as nuclear bombs and hydrogen bombs were not enough to pose a threat to martial artists who were good at hiding. If you didn't even know where people were, how could you blow them up if they were scattered and mixed into a crowd? However, the explosion of integrated circuits and information technology had brought unprecedented changes to the entire human race in the world. In the past 30 years, from electron tubes and transistors to large-scale integrated circuits, then to silicon crystals, and then to modern technology with super strong artificial intelligence learning ability, as well as all kinds of cutting-edge technology that was beyond the comprehension of ordinary people, it was completely incomparable to the past hundreds of years. Every year that passed, the computing power contained in the same square inch of silicon crystal structure would at least double. Although the old man on the stage didn't say these words clearly, he was clearly telling everyone that the times were different. In the past, we tolerated you for the sake of the overall situation, but it didn't mean that we approved of your behavior and privileges. If you still don't want to change, don't conform to the times and still rely on the sharp swords in your hands to treat ordinary people like ants, then what awaits you will inevitably be destruction. I finished speaking next. The old man stood there and spoke for an hour without stopping, which was a huge burden on his body. His hands seemed to be uncontrollably trembling, or perhaps he couldn't suppress his excitement. How many times had he dreamed about it in the middle of the night? He finally stood here in front of these martial artists who could only look up to but not dare to fight and said these things. Even if he died here today, he could go down to the underworld and face those martyrs with a clear conscience. He only had one worry, and that was why the head of the Wen family, who had clearly expressed his goodwill, still hadn't arrived. Although he wasn't afraid of death, some people in the venue couldn't die. Old man, why are you saying this to us? What do you want? Just say it. Don't be so weird. We have been living like this for thousands of years. Even the Qing dynasty emperor treated us with courtesy when he founded the country. Why do you have so many problems when it comes to you? Do you really think we're made of mud? Sure enough, someone was trying to make trouble. A strong man with a full beard slammed the table and stood up. He didn't seem to deliberately use any strength, but the table in front of him instantly exploded into pieces. Qin Guang turned his head and looked. This was an expert who was more powerful than Xianxia. That's right. Back then, the elders of my sect saw that you people fought against the foreign enemies and helped you a lot. Why do you think you've grown up and turned your back on us now? You're really an ingrate. Do you believe that I won't let your blood splash 5 steps away? The second person to slam the table and stand up was a middle-aged man who looked like a Daoist priest. That's right. If you're really that capable, why don't you ask that robot in your movie to come and fight me for 300 rounds? Let's see if its iron shell is harder or if my palm is more powerful. Do you believe that I can kill all of you right now and walk back and forth here for 7 or 8 times? The sects that had communicated with the authorities beforehand were the minority. Most of the people were still arrogant and unruly. When someone took the lead, there were naturally others who followed suit. After a while, the crowd became more and more agitated, and the scene seemed to be gradually getting out of control. Even Jiang Yuanchao, who was sitting next to Qin Guang, began to frown. He pulled Qin Guang aside and said, I didn't expect these people to be so agitated just by looking at the material. The old man hasn't even said anything yet. Damn it. Qin Guang, if they really cause a ruckus later, leave quickly. There's a secret passage downstairs. The password is... What about you, Uncle Jiang? I'm a soldier, I can't leave. This... Qin Guang was also a little surprised by this situation. He thought he had a good understanding of the inner force martial artists. After all, he had dealt with Wen Wen, Xen Qin, Wu Miaoan, and even Long Ding Tian from Dragon Gate Express many times. But now that he saw them, he realized that he had thought too highly of human nature. Even Qin Guang was surprised, and the old geezers weren't any better. They had miscalculated. They had really miscalculated. Not to mention the individual military drill later. Even a simple scientific lecture was enough to make these people go crazy. These people were really crazy, downright crazy. For the past decade, they had been spoiled by Ouyang Tianqing and his Special Affairs Bureau to the point that they had lost their minds. They were still too impatient. At least they should have waited for the Wen family's leader to arrive so that the situation wouldn't go out of control. When the military drill was over, when they truly saw the pinnacle of modern weapons, they would no longer have the courage to smash the table and flip the table. They were now ignorant and fearless. In the crowd, the nun with the sword and the beautiful woman in colorful clothes also frowned. The beautiful woman in colorful clothes said, "These people have been lying on a mountain of gold and silver for too long. Don't they think too highly of themselves?" The nun with the sword nodded. After all, not everyone can see through it. After enjoying the privileges for so long, letting go of them is equivalent to breaking their limbs. Of course they can't bear to. How foolish. Look, even the blood cloth sect, one of the 8 major sects, is making a fuss. The beautiful woman in colorful clothes gradually increased her power in preparation for the unexpected. The nun with the sword said coldly, "Of course. Their evil cultivation requires the blood of children. If we want them to follow the rules, it is equivalent to cutting off their inheritance. Of course they will make a fuss." "Swordswoman, what do we plan to do now?" the beautiful woman asked. The nun with the sword said without hesitation, "If we really want blood to flow like a river, our skills are not bad. We can protect ourselves. Quickly take Qin Guang away from here and wait for the Wen family's leader to come and take control of the situation." That's right. None of the 3 aristocratic families are here, and the leader's intentions are unclear. What's the use of the small fries? No one had expected that in such a situation, the old man standing high up in the middle of the rostrum would not be afraid. Instead, he slammed the table heavily and let out a muffled roar filled with anger from his old chest. "All of you be quiet." With the help of the amplifier, the old man's roar echoed repeatedly in the conference room. Instead, it suppressed many of the excited martial artists. There was a brief silence. Before the martial artists could react and speak, the old man shouted again, "Do you think that we dared to gather all of you here because we don't have something to rely on? Do you think we are afraid of death?" As he spoke word by word, old Jiang, old Jean, and the other old men all stood up from below the rostrum and stood beside the old man in the middle. All of them looked down at the crowd with cold and resolute eyes. Old Tan, on the other hand, gave Jiang Yuanchao a discreet look before stepping forward. Jiang Yuanchao immediately understood and gently pulled Qin Guang. "Follow me. Something bad is going to happen." Based on Qin Guang's temperament in the past, he might have left just like that. But for some unknown reason, when he saw these dozens of old men clenching their teeth and supporting their aged bodies, resolutely standing on the rostrum, facing the impact of the auras released by hundreds of martial artists intentionally or unintentionally, they were clearly shaky, but still stood firm like a stubborn rock in the tide. He didn't want to leave. On the rostrum were Jiang Yage's grandfather and Jin Shiyue's grandfather. If he guessed correctly, the old man who spoke just now should be Lin Jingwei's grandfather, and the one beside him was Jiang Yage's father. Qin Guang closed his eyes slightly. He really couldn't leave. If he really wanted to lose control, he would try to stand on the rostrum and see if the title of the Wen family's clan leader's lover could keep the situation under control. Lover was a bit too harsh. What about the Wen family's clan leader's son-in-law? This was the only bet, right? Let's bet that the title of the Wen family was really that useful. To control the people of the pugilistic world, the most effective way was to use the methods of the pugilistic world. If the Wen family really had the power to command the world, the situation wouldn't have completely gone out of control. Fortunately, he brought the painting scroll with him today and it was still in his hands. Even if there were doubts, it should have some effect if he took it out in public, right? Even if it didn't work, he still had the heavenly holy grail in his bag. Goddess Luli wouldn't leave him in the lurch. She definitely had a way. Alright, no matter how he looked at it, the old man was still a good man who relied on a woman to walk the pugilistic world. Wenwen was a woman and so was Goddess Luli. These old men were poisonous. Their indifference to death was contagious. Qin Guang took a deep breath and shook off Jiang Yuanchao's hand. "No, Uncle Jiang, I'm not leaving." Chapter 657. Why aren't we leaving? Are we going to stay here and wait for our deaths? Jiang Yuanchao growled in a low voice. Old Tan gave him a look. This was the plan that they had agreed on earlier. Once they realized that something had gone wrong, Qin Guang and Jiang Yuanchao would stand out even though they already had a perfect plan. After all, the two bald men were too eye-catching. The others didn't even need Old Tan's reminder. As soon as they sensed that something was wrong, they started to move out. The angry martial artists didn't pay much attention to the group of young and strong people sitting in the front row. All their attention was on the old men on the podium. As for the others, they could leave if they wanted to. Although the young and strong people often appeared on TV, in the eyes of the martial artists, these middle-aged and strong people were not important. There was no need to waste their energy on them. They knew that the ones in charge were these old men. They were even more wary of what the old man in the middle was relying on. They heard that many years ago there was a destructive weapon called the atomic bomb. Could it be that these people buried an atomic bomb underground? That was too much. Although we are martial artists, only a small number of our sects are sent here. The rest of us are not core members. Even if you blow us up here, you will be the one at a disadvantage. Even if we all die here, our sect won't suffer a huge loss, okay? However, they thought too highly of the old men. This place was only a few 100 kilometers away from Yanjin. Even if there was a nuclear bomb, it was impossible to blow it up here. Wouldn't they be condemned for all eternity? The old man in the middle was a little anxious. He had been at a stalemate with the martial artists for almost a minute. Most of the people in the meeting room had already left. Only Qin Guang and Jiang Yuanchao remained where they were. Originally, he planned to wait until everyone left before revealing the sign. However, if this situation continued for too long, the martial artists would think that he was bluffing. Old Master Jin also gave Qin Guang a look, but this time, Qin Guang ignored him. He shook his head slightly, telling them to do whatever they wanted and not to worry about him. Seeing him like this, the old man in the middle took a deep breath. There was nothing else he could do. He waved his hand again and pressed a button. 8 different images suddenly appeared on the large projection screen behind him. They were all real-time recordings of the surveillance cameras. Qin Guang glanced over and felt his scalp tingle. He regretted acting cool here. To be honest, he wasn't particularly afraid of martial artists. But what the hell were these 8 missiles? You guys are playing so big, but Our Lady Lily might not be able to save me, okay? 8 images, 8 missiles. Around the missiles were different scenes. There was a lush forest and a barren hill. Of course, the 2 most exciting ones were the 2 big guys that appeared next to the house. That's right, this house looked very familiar. It was exactly the same as the building they were in at the moment, one in front of the other in the back. Someone poked his head out of the window to take a look and gasped. As expected, it turned out that the floor of the courtyard downstairs had opened up at some point, revealing the pitch-black launcher below. Half of its shiny silver body poked out of the soil and planted itself on the ground like a large mushroom. The people near the window also looked outside. That's right, there was one in the front and one in the back of the building. The old man in the middle raised his right hand, holding a metal box in his palm. The box was tied to his wrist and there was a red button in the middle. Everyone, as you can see, these are 8 missiles. I don't think I need to say more about their specific power. You should know a little. Don't think that you will be safe if you kill me here. As long as my heart stops beating, the missiles will explode. Within 30 seconds, everything within a few kilometers will be razed to the ground. You won't be able to fly out even if you have wings. The old man in the middle said in an extremely indifferent tone, as if he was not going to sacrifice his own life. The martial artists really didn't expect this group of pampered people in power to be able to do this. What kind of enemy was the most terrifying? An enemy who could take their own life and who was not afraid of death was the most terrifying. The people in power of this generation seemed to be a little different from the emperors of the past few thousand years. Many people had this kind of thought in their minds. I said that we are not afraid of death. Do you believe me now? The old man in the middle said again. Even if any martial artist here could poke him to the ground with a finger at this moment, his old body was bursting with an indomitable spirit, causing people to not dare to look directly at him. The martial artists were incomparably confused. What went wrong? 20 or 30 years ago, weren't they as weak as the emperors of the past? Why did they suddenly become unafraid of death? Since ancient times, hadn't all emperors been greedy for life and afraid of death? In a sense, there was nothing wrong with the martial artist's judgment. No one wanted to die. But although this group of old men had the help of modern medicine at this age, they probably didn't have many years left to live. Compared to going down to their coffins in humiliation and leaving behind endless troubles for their descendants, they would rather use their bodies that didn't have many years left to live to fight for one last breath and get rid of some cancer for their descendants. Their thinking was very straightforward. It didn't matter if they lived a few years less. This authority would ultimately belong to their descendants, and that was enough. They had made concessions 20 or 30 years ago because they hadn't even taken half a step into the gates of hell at that time. Or perhaps it was because it would be useless even if they fought back then, and it would only be a meaningless sacrifice. But times were different now. If they had the ability, they could fight for it. The old men might not be so noble, but they would weigh the pros and cons every time they made a decision. It was just that their decision this time was too unyielding. Of course, there was a young man in the scene who was in an especially awkward situation. Master Guang didn't even have the mood to complain. "Are you going to blow this place up? Why didn't you say so earlier? If I knew you were so fierce, who would want to accompany you to the heavens? I'd rather reason with martial artists than see those two huge lumps of metal down there, alright? Everyone ignore me. Let me go a few hundred kilometers away and have some peace and quiet. Old man, don't be rash. Put down that lousy box and we can still be friends. I wonder if my lorry can teleport me to another place if it really blows up. Just the thought of it is a little too exciting." Lorry silently replied with 2 words. Hee hee. Alright, it seemed like Madame Lorry was going to quit. She must have given up all hope on her ability to court death. In response, Qin Guang shrugged his shoulders helplessly. Who could have expected that the old gentleman would go so far? Initially, the situation was still under his control, but the sudden appearance of these 2 things made his scalp go numb. Although he was moved by your spirit of facing death unflinchingly, there was clearly still room for discussion. Can you still eat after putting down the butcher's knife? If I die, I can at least die a little more heroically. It wouldn't feel good to be turned into ashes in an instant. Your bodies are precious. Maybe you can drop a gold ring or something after being burned, but I'm still young. Isn't it too much of a pity to burn me like this? Now why would it be missiles? Normally, wouldn't it be easier to just bury high-energy explosives? Wouldn't it be superfluous to set up 2 missiles? Moreover, the explosive power of high-energy explosives was easier to control and less likely to accidentally injure others. For example, people like Secretary Ma who had already escaped, but no one knew where they went. That's right, these were definitely blanks. They're blanks, right? Damned old man, don't scare us. Holy sh*t, someone had already shouted it out. Qin Guang looked up and saw a middle-aged man pulling out a long saber from his waist. He was already standing in front of the rostrum. The martial artists didn't have their weapons confiscated, and they weren't that obedient either. At this time, Jiang Yage's grandfather spoke. Someone wanted to set off blanks, but I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to control you, so I did it. Don't worry, I guarantee that it's live ammunition. I, old Jiang, have fought in wars all my life and I don't like to set off blanks. Only the brave will win. If you want to risk your lives, I, old Jiang, will risk my life with you. When Jiang Yage's grandfather said this, Qin Guang keenly noticed that the old man's hand, which was holding the button box, trembled subtly. Damn, the old man really thought it was blanks. No wonder he was Jiang Yage's grandfather. He really knew how to play. The other old men seemed to be a little shocked as well. They all widened their eyes as if they wanted to skin old Jiang alive. Why are you all looking at me? Isn't my son sitting down there too? Do you still want to play this game at a time like this? Old Jiang was a little embarrassed. He looked as if he was saying, how can you old men drop the ball at this critical moment? Jiang Yuanchao was already speechless. Dad, you really know how to trick people. At first, Qin Guang was also scared to tears by old Jiang. He wondered why the old man's brain was so big. The reactions of the other old men were also a little unexpected. But after watching for a long time, he still found some clues. Something was not right. Something was not right. For such an important decision, no matter how bad Jiang Yage's grandfather was, it was impossible for him to make it in private. The reactions of the other old men seemed a little too deliberate. It felt very out of place. That's right, out of place. For the first time, Qin Guang realized that when a person's understanding of acting reached an unprecedented level, there were really many unexpected benefits. Especially when others were acting in front of him, he could easily see through them, see through the surface and get to the essence. The old men's acting skills were really superb. No wonder the best actors were all in the political circle. This was not without reason. But they still couldn't hide it from Qin Guang. The other old men deliberately pretended that they didn't know anything, just to make the martial artists present believe that the missile was real. The purpose of setting up the missile was also to make these martial artists more shocked and obedient. Everyone, now can you all sit down and have a good talk? We invited you here with the intention of communicating with everyone. If it's not necessary, who would want to die together with you? The old man in the middle seemed to have spent a lot of effort to calm down. He spoke into the microphone again, but his voice was slightly trembling. Qin Guang gave Su Tao 32 thumbs up. Su Tao's acting skills were superb. If it wasn't for the fact that he was a grandmaster of the world faction, he might have been fooled by Su Tao. The internal force martial artists seemed to be in a difficult position. In Jianghu, ability came second and face came first. Face was more important than the sky. Although they were scared to death, they were not willing to admit defeat easily. But if they could live, who would want to meet the king of hell easily? At this time, everyone was still in a deadlock just because they couldn't save their face. But as long as they didn't continue to pressure the old men, it seemed that their lives wouldn't be in danger. Although they were old, one of the old men's son was also in the audience. That's right, that bald man must be the old man's son. The little bald man hiding under the table should be the grandson of the old man who set up the missile. There were 3 generations in the family. They were really hardworking. At this time, the old man in the middle suddenly clutched his chest with a pained expression. He held onto the table with one hand and was about to collapse. Oh no! The old general is having a heart attack. Quick! Medicine! Tan Zhaohua screamed at the back. Qin Guang, Jiang Yuanchao, and the other internal force martial artists in the conference room were also dumbfounded. Old man, you just said that if your heart stopped, you would explode. Now you suddenly have a heart attack. What are you trying to do? Are you trying to scare us into having a heart attack? This is such a serious occasion, don't make trouble. If you blew everyone up just because you had a heart attack, what kind of injustice would that be? After a few more minutes, the old man's pale face finally recovered. He waved his hand and said apologetically, sorry. Actually, I'm just forcing myself to hold on. I don't know if a blank cartridge will turn into a live one, so I'm under a little more pressure. Let's sit down and talk. Yes, that's right. When we get back, we'll definitely convey your words to our faction leader. Everything can be discussed. Please don't be angry, old man. Old leader, I have a special heart-calming pill here. It's not inferior to the pills produced by Thousand Flower Valley. Please take it. Although we are martial artists, we actually have a chivalrous heart. It's just that sometimes we're a little hot-tempered. I'm really sorry if we offended you just now. This time it was really good. The excitement of the crowd just now had long dissipated beyond the highest heavens after such a torment. Previously, everyone was fearless because they felt that they were powerful. Now that there were 2 big guys downstairs and there was a possibility of an explosion, who wouldn't panic? Turn around and run now? What if he really pressed the button after being pushed into a corner? Also, there were so many Jianghu people here. Why wasn't anyone smart enough to take the lead and run first? Everyone represented the face of their respective sections. Whoever took the lead first would be the first to back down. They couldn't afford to lose face. Most importantly, as long as they knew their place, the situation could still be controlled. Thank you for your understanding. We really want to communicate with everyone today. If you have any opinions, you can slowly talk to us after the meeting. This isn't something that can be accomplished overnight. If we don't communicate, how can we improve our understanding? If that's the case, shall we continue? The old man in the middle asked someone to bring a chair over and sat down with some difficulty. His right hand continued to press the button and place the box on the table. That's right, old chief is right. Fellow Jianghu people, please calm down. Today isn't the time to make the final decision. Communication is the most important thing. Old chief, please don't be angry. I believe that everyone in the Jianghu is chivalrous. I'm Sima Bei from the Special Affairs Bureau. Please return to your seats on account of our many years of friendship. The deputy director of the Special Affairs Bureau, Sima Bei, who had been sitting in the front row without making a move, finally stood up to speak. Ouyang Tianxing could not refuse. but the Special Affairs Bureau still needed a heavyweight. As Ouyang Tianxing's confidant, Sima Bei had interacted with many people in the Jianghu over the years. He had some influence in the Jianghu. With him taking the lead, the others followed suit and returned to their seats. Although they still felt apprehensive when they saw the button box in the old man's hand, the situation was not as intense as before. At this moment, Qin Guang was completely convinced. In the past, he had always thought that governing a country was akin to cooking a small dish was a joke, and it was a poisonous chicken soup for those ordinary people who could only revolve around pots and pans or simple meals. He really did not understand how capable the old men were. He even thought that Old Man Jin and Old Man Jiang were a little muddle-headed. However, this unique meeting today had taught him a harsh lesson. In the face of such a complicated situation, they used such an unreasonable and even childish method to control the situation that seemed to be hanging by a thread. He was pretending to have a heart attack. National affairs sometimes looked complicated, but when it came to actual matters, it did not seem that profound. It was the same philosophy of dealing with people and things. Using the right method at the right time, even if it was a heart attack, could bring peace to the world. After a round of commotion, many of the young and strong people who had just left returned one after another. They did not know what had happened, but they saw the originally unruly martial artists sitting upright and still, as obedient as primary school students. They were all very surprised. Ahem, then let's continue. Alright, where was I? Old Chief, you just finished your PowerPoint presentation. Secretary Chu came over and whispered. Ass kick? Those pictures that talked about technological progress. I'm done. The old man in the middle nodded in realization. Alright, if it's colored pictures then so be it. Why did you have to give it such an inelegant name? Alright everyone, I'm done. Next, let's welcome our newly established department, Director of Guangding General Bureau Comrade Qin Guang, to give a speech. He will briefly introduce the scope of the new department. The goal is the same as before, to maintain communication and make progress together. Sima Bei's face stiffened. Although he had long known about the existence of this so-called Guangding General Bureau, he had just stepped forward to help calm the situation, and now you're going to bring a new department to the front stage? Aren't you slapping me in the face in public? Master Guang did not care what Sima Bei was thinking, but he himself was extremely frustrated. I've just recovered from the great shock and you're asking me to give a speech on stage now? Oh right, what exactly is the function of this Guangding General Bureau? Why can't I have any idea at the moment? Qin Guang began to recall the document he had read about the establishment of the Guangding General Bureau. However, no matter how he thought about it, he felt that it was full of bold words, but when it came to the specific functions of his department, they were all unknown. To put it bluntly, he was in the dark. No matter how he thought about it, he could only think about what Xianxia and Wu Miaoan were doing in the 5 capitals. There was nothing else. However, he did not have much time to hesitate. Tan Zhaohua had already walked down from the rostrum. Come little Qin, hurry up and come up. Qin Guang braced himself and followed Old Man Tan to the rostrum. Unknowingly, when he stepped onto the stage, many of the old gentlemen who were still on the stage parted to make way for him, imperceptibly creating a sense of extraordinarily respectable presence for him. Qin Guang, who knew how much he was worth, did not feel proud at all. Instead, he only felt like he had been cheated. Bastards! You're trying to make me a scapegoat. He stood in the middle of the rostrum and coughed lightly. Alright, this was a test microphone and the effect was pretty good. However, before he could speak, the audience gradually began to clamor. How could it be him? Heavens! So it's him. This Guangding General Bureau is incredible. No wonder they have the courage to talk to us now. So the Wen family has already gotten so close to these people? In the crowd, the sword-wielding nun's expression was calm, as if she had already expected this. She sighed and said, I don't know if this is a blessing or a curse for this young man. The beautiful woman in colorful clothes was carefree. It's a blessing if he can endure it. If he can't, then he's trash. Who told an ordinary person like him to mess around with the daughter of the Wen family? But I think he looks like he has a card up his sleeve. Of course, that little girl has her eyes set on the top of her head. Even if a man who can catch her eye doesn't cultivate inner force, there should still be something special about him. Alright, at this time the person who was the most confused was still Qin Guang. To be honest, he had thought that he had concealed himself very well. Now that he had suddenly stepped onto the stage at such a young age, these martial artists should more or less show some unconvinced expressions, but why did they all look like they had suddenly realized something? It was as if they had known him for a long time. This feeling was very strange and annoying. It was as if he had sung a folk song in the shower and thought that no one would know, but in the end it was broadcasted to the whole world. It was so embarrassing. Why does it seem like everyone knows who I am, but I am the only one who is kept in the dark? Greetings, Mr. Chen. Finally, someone was the first to stand up and salute Qin Guang to show respect. With someone taking the lead, the others followed one after another. The name of the Wen family was really useful. The three great families of the Jianghu had existed for a long time. Although the Wen family seemed to be showing signs of decline in the past few decades, the appearance of one Wen who had reached the Wenzhong realm instantly brought the family back to the peak. The Jianghu was a world where the strong were respected and strength made the rules. Moreover, this gentleman was the man that the Wen family's sect leader had personally announced that he would protect. This is the man I like. You guys take it easy. Although he has no ability and is just an ordinary person, whoever dares to touch him is touching my life. I will definitely not live under the same sky as you. Old Man Jin and Old Man Jiang were also aware of this. The two of them patted Qin Guang's shoulder from behind. Old Man Jin said in a low voice, "If you have any thoughts, just speak your mind. Your backing is stronger than you think." Qin Guang finally understood. He understood everything. No wonder the old gentleman thought so highly of me. It seems like you guys believe in Wenwen's taste. I say, have the two of you ever thought that since the old man has taken a liking to Wenwen, he would still be able to hook up with your granddaughter? No, Wenwen must have released some other information. However, there was no time to pursue it now. Let's deal with this matter first and ask about it later. There was no other way. He could only bring out the aura he had in the Sea of Time. He raised his hands and slowly pressed them down, indicating for everyone to be quiet. When the hall was completely silent, he slowly said, "Hello everyone, it is a pleasure to meet you." No. This opening was too lacking in aura. I am Qin Guang, the first director of the General Directorate of Guangding, Qin Guang. I look forward to your guidance in the future. Alright, it was still lacking in aura. Everyone here comes from all over the world. It is fate that we are able to meet here. Very good. The aura was slowly rising. In the past many years, you have mostly dealt with the Special Affairs Bureau. In the future you will have to deal with me. The eyes of the many old men lit up. This was the feeling they wanted. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.